What's going on, mi gente? You've tuned into another episode of the Brown Experience with myself, Brown96. And today's episode, we're going to discuss um, homelessness versus uh, sheltered. Homeless people versus people that have shelter. Uh, Now, I have my own spiel about what I feel about this topic. Um, Before everyone comes in and gives their 2 cents on the issue, on the topic at hand, I want to give my 2 cents on this. So let me give a moment real quick to get some people in here, and we'll get to it. So today is Thursday the 23rd of February. How's everyone doing? Gracias for tuning in. People that are tuning in on the audio platforms, thank you. Much appreciated. I do this for my gente, to get some conversations going with the people. I mean, what's better to fix things in our community, but to speak to the people that live in the community, right? So that's what I'm trying to do. I live in the community, so I want to talk on issues that affect the community, and homelessness being a big factor. So it needs to be spoken on. There we go. Trying to send some requests. So if people are listening to it only on the audio platform and you want to be a part of this conversation, make sure you tune in to my Instagram platform at brown underscore number 9SIX, brown96, which is also my artist name. But so I'm sending requests to people because I do want to have conversations with other people that have not joined the live before. I mean, of course, if there isn't anyone that hasn't joined, people can rejoin every episode as well. That's no problem. But all right. So let's see who's on right now. What's up, gente? What's up? What's up? What's up? How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing? All right. So like I was saying, so today's topic is on homelessness versus sheltered. Now this issue, everyone sees it in their community. People see it in their community. Oh, what's up, Google Monster? It's a topic that it's very sensitive because everyone has, I guess, everyone's a part of the issue. Somewhat. Everyone has a hand in why it continues to be an issue, right? So for me, like I notice when people, walk by a homeless person and they just look at them like like they're crazy or whatnot, right? And for the most part, people don't do much about it. They just walk past, and that's it. They keep doing whatever they're doing throughout their day, right? But see, I feel that that's part. Audio sounds bad, really. Oh shit. How about now, bro? Sounds better? A little better? Sound a little better? Really? Man, that's crazy. I think there's always some weird stuff going on. Anyway, let's see. Is there? Oh, dang. How about now? A little better? All right. Hopefully that's better. But I'm gonna give a little. There was a static. Dang. Uh, I guess we have to deal with that little static, bro, because I don't know what it is. Sounds like dragonfly. I got some pet dragonflies, bro. Nah, but you know what? Uh, I wanted to give a little spiel before I go into bringing people onto the live. So I wanted to talk about the fact that us living in our certain communities, I think we play we're a big factor to why homelessness keeps being a problem, because I mean we don't, people in the community, they don't really step up to do anything about it. They expect the government to step in and help them, right? They expect the county to step in and help these people that are, you know, they have drug problems, they have mental disabilities. At a lot of them do. So we don't want to deal with them, right? But the problem is that we literally step over them to walk by in the streets, right? But what if one of these people that live in the streets, right? We don't really. I mean, we turn a blind eye, but when they go and rape a little girl, or a little boy, then what? You know what I mean? Then whose problem is it? So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think we play a big part into why this issue continues in our communities. But with that said, I want to see if anyone would like to come on to today's platform, the episode, to speak on these things. But let's see who's on here. Jesus, what's up, bro? Hey, you want to come on, bro, and talk? All right. Sports and tunes. What's up, Cardan? I sent you an invite, bro. Staying homeless. You know what, bro? I have my own take on that. I don't want to take up too much time. What's up,
What up,
Cardan?
James?
I don't want to take up too much time talking about like what I feel. I want to hear people's point of view. You know what I mean? Because I feel, yeah, to some that may seem like it's a choice, but it's just a lot of things stacked against people. But I'll leave it at that. Yeah, Carnal, what's up, man?
What up,
Hey, you
man?
want to go ahead and introduce yourself real quick for the
Yeah,
gente that
man.
are just listening to us on the audio platform?
David Sanchez, also known as Sports and Tunes, from the Mo Boxing No Problem podcast. Yeah, man, it's pretty deep, but you're to a point. You're right. Nobody makes that decision. I mean, it's their decision at the end of the day. But you're right. If we gotta help them, we don't have to help them. We decide to help them, but they're gonna do what they're gonna do at the end of the day. They live in a whole different world. They have their own little society. They don't live by our rules or rules in general. They make their own rules. But what can we do? I mean, we do what we can. And as far as if they were to rape little kids or whatnot, it's our job to protect our kids from not being around them at the first place. So just having our kids be around a homeless person, that's just a risk within itself. And that's what I gotta say. I mean, it's
For
scary
sure.
to think of that, but yeah,
It
right away
is.
the news, bigger story, homeless person rapes a little kid, or there's no stories of someone helps a homeless person today. No, they don't give that much attention to that, and that's the problem within society itself.
Yeah, man. No, I feel that. You know what? But I want to go into these questions, bro. Now, personally, like you personally, reflecting back on how like seeing homeless people in the streets and stuff as a kid, and and now, how do you like reflecting back, thinking back, how does that play a role in your life? Like how did that affect you growing up?
Well, everything changed. I mean, back then you wouldn't see as much homelessness as you see now. And I grew up in the 90s when it was crazy. We would go out to LA and we'd see a lot, but you go now and like they took over, you know what I mean? They have what's it, Skid Row, one of the scariest places to even go. They even have warning signs. They'll snatch anything from anyone if it's worth any money. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the generations change, and unfortunately, it's not a problem that's getting any better.
Yeah, man. That's what it is, bro. And that's why I want to have these talks. You know what I mean? Because I want to hear people's point of view. Because all communities have homeless people. You know what I mean? Like all communities have. I guess they even call it a plague, bro. It's a plague of people that are just have quit a regular way of living. I guess a more conventional way of living, right? Because like everyone pretty much has this, are productive in society, right? So, but they have like their own stuff to the, and I say this that a lot of them choose to stay in that environment, right? They literally would not go back into, regular society because they just They lived it. They're older. They lived it, and they want no part of it anymore, right? And I literally have seen people like that. But now, uh, with people that have like mental issues, right? Can they be able to re-enter society? Like, do you feel that? Because a lot of them seem like they're too far gone, bro. And it's like, is that even? Can we actually see that they can re-enter society and they can become again a productive person in society again? I mean, what do you think, bro?
I think it has. There's a lot of things to it. I mean, they didn't get that ill on their own. You know what I mean? There was a cause for it. I mean, most of them, I'm sure you can tell it's drug addiction, right? So all of them find the way to get their fix. But who gets them their fix? The dealer, right? So what? Whose fault is it there? The dealer doesn't care. He just cares about getting the money, right? So, so how do we convince the dealer to stop feeding into this? I think that's the main general issue. Because what I see is that these people we see, they're out on the streets, like you say, they look mentally ill. They're just talking to themselves and they just do some crazy random shit. But like I said, we are quick to judge, but what we don't find a solution for it, and nobody puts their hand in it. Not even the government, like the comments that we're getting here. What's the government doing about it themselves?
Do you think we should even depend on the government to step in because they really haven't?
I mean, they only step in when it gets pretty drastic. Like out here, Orange County, city of Anaheim, they had like a whole like riverbed, like right next to Angel Stadium. There's a riverbed. They were all tenting out. It was just packed. And little by little, they started helping out a little. They started giving them vouchers to get motel rooms and stuff. But it didn't change anything. Little by little, you start seeing them pop up in other places. And I don't know. I think the government already has a lot of things in their hands at the moment, national debt and a lot of other stuff that they're concerned about.
Hey, how's it going, carnal? Hey, can you go ahead and introduce yourself, bro?
Um, my name is Raimundo Zacarias. I'm a social worker, previously incarcerated, gangs, drugs, prison, changed my life. And I work with gang youth and foster youth. But I trip out because I also used to run a program for homeless, for
Mm,
folks right there in South Central. So I feel what you're saying.
mm.
Yeah, there you go.
Now back to the question that I had posed to carnal over here. Who I mean, when it comes to like reflecting back and seeing how a lot of the homeless have issues like mental issues, do you feel that people that are like seem like they're too far gone, can they re-enter society and become that productive member of society again?
Damn. So I to kind of like the foundation is that the government shut down because like we work with a lot of these folks that have mental health and substance abuse and have just been displaced for a lot of reasons, right? Housing, vets, trauma, and there's no safe place to take them where they can be cared for. So we could put them in shelters, and there's like the government hasn't created a safe space for them to be where they're treated like human beings. Here in LA, they've got the hotels that they're just filling them in, and once they get folks in there, they're so accustomed to living a certain way that they bounce in and out. Because like the group that I worked with, we had a therapist and we had a substance abuse counselor, and then we had a bunch of case managers, and it was crazy. We even lost a few people because like right now it's cold, so we would take some tents and blankets and stuff, and some are at a point where they, with their mental health not being stable, they stay out there and die, bro. And we ain't got no safe place to, take them. And like, here's a place to go, and you can get medication because they're now giving them shots that'll last like 30 days. So it'll help stabilize them, but it's hard. It's hard because, if they're not open to it, and they're more, you know, I don't want to say far gone because a social worker, but if it's like high needs mental health, then yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. And yeah, I got friends that are still working in it. And right now, one of the biggest things is that they don't have a safe. It's still the same thing. They don't have a safe place to take them, right? And they shut down all the hospitals. There's only a couple hospitals. Like if they're dangerous to themselves. Like today, I was driving to work, and there was a homeless person or an unhoused person that had looked like severe mental health. Almost got hit by a car. He was walking in the middle of the street. It's cold. It's rainy. He didn't have no shoes on, no socks, no nothing. And who are we gonna call for that? It's sad.
Yeah, man, I feel that, man. Uh, because this is the thing for me, bro. Like, I noticed that like, because you know how they say that a village, how do you save a village? With the villagers, right? The people that live in that community. How do you save a community? With the community bringing up the community, right? Why do you think that a lot of people won't step up to do something about, at least their immediate area, if not the whole city, like their immediate area, their immediate blocks, right? When they see someone that's down and out like that, why do you think people won't step up and be like, damn, carnal over here like strung out, like fuck, let's get him some help. What the fuck? Like, why is no one doing nothing about it? We'll go ahead with the camarada uh, the sports and tunes.
I think it's a lack of courage. Back in the days, we had people like Cesar Chavez helping the raza out. I think it just takes a lot of courage in an individual to just have the whole community, like you say, have his back. And if there's no great leadership, that no one's gonna follow through. So I think it's more than like a courage thing. And if you get negative feedback from more than 3 to 4 persons, you're just gonna give up. You're not even gonna try. You can come up with ideas, and then you'd be like, "Why are you doing that for? It's not even gonna work." And then there you go. It ends there. That's what
Yeah, that
I think.
that sounds like something that takes a factor into it. Raimundo, what is your 2 cents on it, carnal?
Some people don't care. They don't want it in their neighborhood. A while
Mm-hmm.
back, the city, the mayor had had put a mandate out there that each council district needed to come up with a homeless shelter, right? And like I'm in Van Nuys, right? And it's bad. It's bad in the valley. And like nobody's doing nothing. And like Sherman Oaks, they protested. They're like, we don't want no needles out here, my kids, and they're higher up income. And the other parts of the district, nothing. So they were supposed to have created something for folks, but people were like, oh, I don't want it in my area. And I think they just proposed something over at the old Sears building too. And there was protests right there because they're like, we ain't even got no space. And now you're going to bring like 300, 400 more people. We can't even get our streets cleaned. And it's like, where's the humanity, man? Like brother was saying, you gotta be courageous and, trying to help them out. And the cool part is like, when you talk to them, like, because I worked with these cats they have some extreme mental health challenges, and when you treat them with respect and dignity and just like love, like a human being, they respond to it, man. Even if you're on medication, but like the brother was saying, who's gonna be courageous enough and like, hey, you want a sweater or you want something to eat or it's it's nobody wants it in their backyard.
That's true, man. I remember when like jefitas and in certain morrillos that were just like their
True.
folks weren't really like what I mean taking care of them right, so they would bring them in with like, hey, véngase para adentro, está frío afuera, or they would just see them just around the barrios, but it would be like, "Y tus papás dónde están?" Like, like. But nowadays, that hospitality, like, where is it? Like, what happened to that? What happened to when there's someone in need in the community that, hey, you're hungry, you need something? What happened to that? That's fucking crazy. Like, and I think it's is this some of it. I feel that some of that hospitality came from Mexico, but I think this Americanized way of living has corrupted our way.
Yep. Because like our indigenous practices, brother, it's family. We're all family. Like you said, back in the day, we didn't let nobody go hungry. If our neighbor didn't have it, man, pasa, we're gonna take care of and look out for them. Same with the people that were, because back in the day, like if there was somebody with, and we would call them winos or whatever, they were always, hey, give them some money. Here's a burrito, And now that we've got, some of this, you know, and they what is my brother calls it Anglo conformity. I was like, what the fuck is that? and and what we do is we adapt it to some of their practices, and practices are cold blooded. They leave people out there to die.
That's nuts, man. It's just so crazy how things are nowadays. But hey, what's up, Steven? Go ahead and introduce yourself, bro, for the listeners on the audio platform, bro.
What's up, man? My name is Steve Martinez, aka Mega Man, host of the Long Beach Social Experiment podcast. And the homie right there putting the beanie on. That's Flo.
So go ahead, Steven, man. Give us your 2 cents on this topic, bro. I mean, like, what do you feel like? I mean, what is your reflecting back, bro? What is your how does the homeless problem in your particular surroundings, how does that affect you? How has that affected your life?
It's bad. I always talk about my story. There was a time I had my ups and downs where me and the kids were homeless, living on the streets, or there's even times living in shelters or couch surfing or going place to place and everything. But, I just, hearing you guys talking about, there's a lot of people who are homeless, and you guys say, oh, we walk over them and stuff like that. We ask for it. We give them help and they don't want it. They want fentanyls. We have a fentanyl problem over here in Long Beach. And, the city, they can talk, well, we could buy all these hotels and do whatever they can, but they're making a profit. And a lot of people don't know this, when a lot of these homeless, these are people who are dealing with mental illness. There's even people who have autism, and I've seen different types of people in white vans, black vans, coming from different states and just throwing whatever they can over here in Long Beach is just taken off because they try to clean up their state or maybe their city and all. And we get stuck with all this. And it's pretty sad. There's even people they have kids who have autism, little kids, or maybe a teenage, and they just drop them off, and that's that. No one wants to take care of people with special needs and all that stuff. And yeah, like back in the day, if someone was really homeless, we would be there to give them money or have a place to crash, whatever, but it really depends on the situation, because we don't even know if they're being legit, like we help them out, but they want drug money, or they actually really do need help. But over here in Long Beach, it's really bad.
Yeah, man. And it does get pretty bad, in places, man. But what's up, Flo? How you doing, man?
So, fellas,
Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, bro.
yes, so go by Flo, host of Flo. Also have a podcast as well, talk about different things. But this particular topic, we talked about it before, Brown, back when we still had Casa Stand, and I gave specific numbers for people. I think it's pretty obvious that there's a homeless problem. I think everybody here agrees this is an issue, right? We might disagree on what the reasons are or what are the causes. But if you look at the statistics, you know me, Brown, I love throwing statistics and numbers, right? Not opinions. You will see that most of the people who are homeless today are homeless because they have mental issues, right? Mental health issues, or they have a drug problem. Those are the two main factors, right? And a lot of the times, those two are connected, because a lot of people who are drug addicts tend to have mental health issues, right? So there's that issue, and I know that the brother down here was talking about how, I think it was the early 2000s or late 90s. I don't remember the exact time, but a lot of these facilities were closed down for people who had mental health issues. So these people ended up on
Mm.
the streets, right? But what I see today is a lot of young people out there, and that was never an issue back when we were kids, right? You would see the winos, like you said, right? But they were older men, who probably had a rough life, and it wasn't that many people. Now you see people younger than me on the streets, right?
Yeah.
And they have no intentions of going back. And that's why I said what I said. I said, becoming homeless can happen to anybody, right? But staying homeless, I think, is a choice because there's so many resources today. The resources are out there. They're not lacking. We have tons of shelters in California. We have all these services. We have, we give them drugs. We give them what they need. So why would you expect somebody who's getting what they need to want to get out of that lifestyle? It's a lifestyle. At this point, it's become a lifestyle for a lot of people. Again, not everybody out there who's out there homeless has the same situation. You have people who become homeless because they lose, their job or whatever. But those people are not going to be chronically homeless. You'll see them trying to get the help. They'll go to a shelter, kind of like Magaman was talking about his situation. He's not a chronically homeless person. He went through his thing and he's out. You wouldn't know he's homeless,
Yeah.
right? So that's why I say that. And I think throwing money at the problem is not solving it. As a matter of fact, it's making it worse because it's become profitable. Like I said, a lot of these organizations, the CEOs and people who run these organizations are making hundreds of thousands of dollars off the homeless situation, which is kind of ironic. Yeah. You would think that money would go to helping people out. So that ain't the issue. The issue is not money. The issue is we're not holding people accountable. My wife works at a homeless shelter. She's been working there for 6 years. And a lot of the stories that I get from what she hears, there's people who literally will be there for a whole year, get their rent paid, right? And they'll sell drugs out of their apartments, right? And then they'll go to a different program and do the same thing over and over. So obviously there's stories of people who come in and get out as well, but the help is there. People don't want to be held accountable. People, the ones who want to are going to get out, and the ones who don't are not. And I think today we have too many people who are just not, for whatever reason, are not interested in participating in the society. I think becoming homeless today, if you're in that situation, it's like, I'm just giving up on the system. It's too hard for me. I don't want to deal with paying rent. I don't want to deal with paying bills. I don't want to be responsible. It's a choice, and some folks might not agree with that. But I think from what I've seen, again, being a kid and growing up in the barrio and seeing the things that I saw then and seeing the things that I'm seeing now is just completely different.
Yeah. Back then, like years ago, I would hear stories of I asked people when me and my kids were living in the streets, like, why are you in the streets for? Like, well, I didn't want to go by the rules, or, there was a guy saying I was getting molested by my dad. I had to run away, or this girl had drug and issues, got raped. Everyone has a story and everyone's just trying to bounce back. But how Flo was saying, there's a lot of people, they just want drugs and just they're just mentally broken. It's like, well, everything's all fucking up. Well, fuck it, dude. I'll just do what I want to do. I mean, we're gonna fucking die anyway. That's how they think.
Hey, and on that note, Flo, you hit it, because I got a buddy, and he was my my field supervisor, and he was working, and he took me through Skid Row, and he was like, why would you want to change? He goes, we feed you, we bring food to you, we bring hours to you, we'll bring you clean aires, pipas, whatever you need. And you ain't got to pay rent. You could just, however, and you still have those folks that are just like with the mental health that they need somewhere to go. They can't function without some kind of support. But
Yeah.
then got these other cats that are like, it's my empire. It's my empire.
Yeah.
Why would I,
Yeah.
John Wick, that one cat that's in charge of all the unhoused underground. They got cats like that they take full advantage. But then, like the brother was saying, you got some families out there, and like you're saying about the young kids, there's a lot of young people they're getting out of foster care, and they don't want to continue with DCFS, so they cut all their ties, and then they find themselves homeless out in the streets.
Even in Long Beach, where Cal State Long Beach, they're having a problem. They had to go uh, tell the mayor to come. What can we do? Because Cal State Long Beach is right next to a veterans hospital, and a lot of those there's a lot of veterans who are homeless, and you can see a whole bunch of tents, RVs, because they need their medication to live another day because they're just not there.
Yeah. Now we know there's a lot of money, that it's funding trying to help the homeless, right? It's a lot of money, like millions and millions of dollars, right? So now what I'm hearing all you guys saying right now is that basically people get comfortable. They're in the comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like they have some kind of control over their environment compared to how they were when they were just living that, society life, right? But um, now, how do we prepare and help our youth to not become homeless when they get older? Now, that's the question, because a lot of these people, they ended up in a situation where they had to depend on selling drugs because that's what they got used to doing. That's what worked for them. And no, they don't want to stop doing what works for them, right? Even when they do have a place finally, right? They can continue it because that's what's worked for them, right? So like, but in a way that's kind of like going back to their soothing. That's the way of soothing their problems, right? Their money problems. They soothe it through doing illegal activities, right? But like people that do drugs, they're soothing their stresses. Whatever stressors they're going through, they figure that the drugs is what's helping them get through their day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do we help these youngsters soothe themselves in a way that they can continue even though there's blocks in their way, right? Whoever wants to start first with that.
Again, I'm gonna give you some statistics, right?
Hit it, Flo.
Go ahead,
So
bro.
Come on, Flo. Bring that.
80% of the people, again, you can look this up. 80% of the people who are homeless come from fatherless homes.
That's true.
Right. So you know me how I feel about that, bro. I've been talking about fatherless homes and the fatherless issue in our communities that's rarely ever talked about. We talk about racism, we talk about capitalism, we talk about all these other things, but rarely do we ever look at our communities and talk about that and see how that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, ourselves, I don't know if you guys are fathers. I know some of you are fathers, right? I'm a father myself. We can start with our own homes, ensure that our kids, have the best upbringing that they can, so they can raise other kids.
Yeah.
Over and be male mentors to young men. And I say young men specifically because I think young men are the ones that are really dealing with this. You don't really, you see women out there as well, but young men today are dealing with a lot more issues than they were 50 years ago because things have changed. Gender roles have changed. Society has changed. Men today are told they ain't shit, so they're trying to figure themselves out in society. And that's why a lot of these men also end up on the street because they're like, well, what do I do? What am I worth? I can't live like my dad used to live. I can't do what they've done traditionally. So what am I supposed to do? So we need to specifically target them because they're the ones that are on the street and they drive this, right? So if you could be a mentor to a young man in your community, in your life, in your family, start there. I mean, we can't change the world overnight. We're not going to do that. And also be realistic with your situation, right? I mean, again, yeah, you can go up to somebody and give them money or have a conversation with them, but really it starts with the youth. It always has. The youth is the next generation that you talk about. I know, Brown, you've worked with youth in the past. I've been working with youth pretty much my entire life. And that is really all you can do, in my opinion, to ensure that you stop this horrible cycle of people ending up on the street because it doesn't seem to be working. Whatever we're doing is not working. And all these other factors are not going to change. We're not going to stop capitalism. We're not going to stop racism. We're not going to stop discrimination. We can try to fight it, but it's always going to be there. So we have to be able to control the narrative in that sense and say, you know what can we do in our communities, in our specific circles to be able to ensure that this doesn't happen to my family, to my cousins, to people in my spectrum, right? But that's my opinion.
Man, Flo, you broke it off, bro.
That was dope. That was dope. Love that. Love that.
Because, like, I work with justice impacted and foster youth, right? And that fatherless home is for real, man. They lock us up. I went to prison. Somebody else was raising my son, and when I come out, I teach them what I know which is all how to fail, you know, and if we're not giving them opportunities and giving them that support, you like jobs and education, because I'm real big on education, then they don't think they got any kind of, you know, hope, because nobody's going to direct them. If it's just them running around with the homies, you're going to do what they're doing, you know. And if I show you how to make money quick and not teach you about the consequence, then roll the dice. Let's do this, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I try to get my kids off of social media because they see a lot of homeless deficit and all. It's like, instead of you just talking like, oh, what's going on? Like, my kids are seeing it with their own eyes, and everything starts at the house. You know, it really depends how you raise your kids, how you teach them. You know, teach them about reality and less social media, because I notice that a lot of people with social media, like the new generations of kids, they don't know how to talk, they don't know how to communicate, and they're like, you know, whatever. But to me, it's just something where, how you say, the youth, the next generation, you know, like, everything's all right there. It's like, yo, I don't want to end up like this. But I also notice in Long Beach, when you talk about the single household, there's a lot of kids going with their father instead of their mother.
Man, it's a lot of good points, man. See, a lot of the people, they end up displaced. They end up because of just many factors to why people end up homeless, right? Drugs, they can't pay their rent, gentrification. That's a
Mm.
big one right there. So like, let's talk about that gentrification. How do we can't stop gentrification because this is a free country. We can't stop people from going where they want to go and live, right? But like, can we how can we make it so that we're prepared at least for what's to come? Can we even be prepared for gentrification?
We can be. You know, we talk about in Long Beach, gentrification is really getting hit hard. They're going to make a headquarters of Google, Anaheim Angels, and all these people are coming from Japan, Baltimore, Detroit, and all that because it's more cheaper. But it's like how the Hood Santa always says, it takes us to save us, you know? That's why, like, with a lot of blacks, Cambodians, Hispanics, Latinos, and all, you got to invest on a lot of property to still keep those small businesses afloat. If not, you know, a lot of outside corporations or anything, they're going to buy all those properties, make condominiums, make In-N-Outs, make Chick-fil-A's and all that stuff. So every day when we see gentrification hitting Long Beach, Long Beach is losing its identity. And there's even been rumors of they want to change the city's name to a different name, like how they did with East Los. Like, we're going to call it Echo Park or Silver Lake. That's what they want to do to Long Beach.
It's dirty.
Yeah. To answer the question about gentrification, there is no stopping it, whether you believe in it or not. It's happening, right? And unfortunately, I mean, somebody said it here in one of the comments. I think it said survival of the fittest, and that is what this country is about.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be able to adapt to the changes. Really, life is that's what it's all about, is adapting, right? But of course, you know, we have to, as individuals who I would call aware, or you know, just conscious of what's going on, we have to pass that knowledge to those individuals who are struggling, right? I think that's our responsibility to be able to do that. You know, and I've done my best in my platform and the stuff that I've done to be able to educate people about, you know, the stuff that I know, and how I've made money. You know, I've been able to become successful financially in my field. So of course, not everyone's going to follow that method, and not everyone's going to agree with it or even care about it. But all I can do is do my part to ensure, because, you know, I grew up in Pacoima, right? I know Van Nuys is right next to Pacoima. I ended up moving out of Pacoima. You know, I live in the SGV now, right?
Ooh, nah.
And Park, we're all with all the Asian folks, and this is where I live now. You know, so I went from a big difference, right? And I always talk about that because here, there's a lot of community here where I live, and unfortunately, where I grew up, that was not the case. You know, it's very unfortunate that I didn't experience that as a kid. But again, going back to the fatherless thing, you know, I had a great father who was there and taught me the ropes with not just, you know, being a man or whatever, but finances, right? How to manage your money, how to you know, my brother, how to invest your money, right? I've had good mentors and good people in my life. I'm very fortunate, and I'm going to acknowledge that. I'm not going to say that's a very common thing in our community. So that's why I see it as I got to pay it forward. So when I met Brown, almost 2 or 3 years ago, right? It was like, man, we got to talk about these issues that I had in my head. I was like, we got to make people aware, and we created something beautiful in the process. I know that it didn't continue in the ways that probably we could have, but we still collaborate, right? And doing this right here, people who are tuning in who I don't even know might follow me, might follow my platform, might want to have a conversation with me. I run a mentoring program. That's what I do as a professional. That's my job. So I'm doing what I can to change my circle and informing these individuals, hey, this is what you can do to adapt to these changes. It doesn't mean you're going to be super successful or that everything's going to be nice and dandy. No, I mean, there's going to be challenges all the time, but you have to be very strong-willed and very, very strong-minded to be able to overcome these challenges, because they're going to come. And I think what Megan was saying earlier is that a lot of youth today, they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to deal with tough situations. And part of that is that baby generation that I think a lot of us grew up in, the late 80s, early 90s, right? Give everybody trophies, no one gets hurt. Unfortunately, that is also derailing people, right? So we have to get back to say, you know what, hey, like, we're going to help you out, but you got to get out of the mud by yourself at the end of the day, because you came here by yourself. You're going to go out here by yourself. So we'll do what we can, but at the end of the day, you got to provide for yourself.
Yeah, man.
Flo, and I agree that gentrification isn't going to stop, because like here in Van Nuys, any spot that's open, boom, they're building up these condos and creating more congestion, but they're also pushing people out. And we don't have, and mad love and respect that you're doing something about doing the mentoring, because we need to understand and learn how to invest, right? And that financial literacy, because look, I'm 53, man. I got a late start on where I stay in the studio. I'll keep it 200. I keep it 200. Savings, the whole nine. I got a master's from SC, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, I still don't know how to invest. How do I turn that so that, like, if I want to invest in Van Nuys and I want to buy property, like, where do I go to learn all that? Because, like,
There's a podcast you should check it out called the Latin Wealth Club.
ooh, I'm about to join.
Dude, that's a very good podcast, and I'm telling you, I was like, let me see what's up. They're making noise, and I learned a lot about that. And I'm really, those guys are, man, they're on another level, and they're from San Pedro. They're from the Harbor area.
Yeah. But I think that's a big part of continuing to, each one teach one, because I got a younger homie that he's in recovery with me, and that fool, he's just teaching me on how to invest and what to invest in and 401ks and all that. I was like, shoo, so I'm learning a little bit, but we need to teach that to our young people, because as soon as it comes in their hand, it's gone. They're living in the day, and that's it. There's not a whole lot that they're thinking about. So, like, what about tomorrow? And I can invest in this, So that's kind of some of what I see too.
Now, one last word from each one of you of how and what do you propose people start doing, even the smallest things, to make this issue, into something more, I guess, accomplishable. I mean, how would you start working on this? I mean, what can any, regular guy do to start making this work so we can eradicate this issue, right?
Yeah.
I would, I would, I would say for me, I would be more focused on my community. Know your neighbors. Even my next door neighbor, know the community and all that, and see what we can do. I've been really following the Hood Santa, Polly's Project, Lizzie's Journey Loves and Hope, Project Coffee Cup, CISO, they're over there always helping out the community, the homeless and all that stuff. And to me, I just see the Hood Santa in our community giving out. I don't see the city helping the homeless now. I see Tito trying to do whatever he can to, hey, you want some food, you want some money, you need a place to stay, you need a job here. Well, you got to do whatever you can. But the homeless, I mean, I don't know. It's just I don't know. I'm kind of lost for words for that, because I really don't know what our new mayor is going to do about it. We have a new mayor, and we're going to see what we can do. And if not, I'm kind of more worried about what's going to happen with this inflation and this recession for 2023. There's going to be a lot of people getting laid off, and we're going to see more homeless people in all of our cities.
I would say continue to provide sources for people who want to get out of the situation and hold them accountable, have some kind of merit, right? Where if you don't meet certain quotas or whatever, you don't meet certain requirements, then you're not going to get the help, right? Like I said, a lot of these shelters that I've heard about, right? Like I said, my wife works for one. They're just like, hey, just give them whatever they want. And as long as we meet these numbers, because we got to get this amount of money for the shelter, so our organization keeps getting paid, right? So we have to also audit a lot of these organizations to ensure that they're not taking advantage of the situation. They're not profiting off homelessness, because that's what's happening, right? So to address that issue, the homeless issue, and again, to try to prevent it, is just, ultimately try to inform people, hey, this is what could happen to you, right? Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people know that, but also really being active in any way that you can, right? Use your skill set as an individual to help somebody out. I mean, what I've done, you've seen this, both of you guys have seen this. I've gotten a group of young men together, and we just play a football game. On a Saturday morning, they could Saturday mornings they could be drunk Friday nights and not show up to the game, right? So that's like a way to get them to show up and not be throwing their life away the night before, And the game is cool and all, but at the end of the day, for me, what's cool is like all these young kids from everywhere getting together some of them don't even know each other, just how.
Yeah.
And also the mentorship that happens between young men, and I've seen kids as young as like 7, 8 years old, all the way up to somebody's in their 50s, So young men and men just getting together and really building things together. That's the way I do it. I'm a sports guy. I love sports. I love history. The things that I love to do, that's what I do to ensure to help people out. But hey, maybe you're good at, I don't know, music. I know Brown's an artist, Mega Man's a podcaster, right? You have a degree, from USC. I mean, all these things matter. You should be able to use those things, to help somebody out. And I think at the end of the day, we have to give ourselves credit. I know that as Raza, sometimes we're too humble and we don't want to talk about our accomplishments. Man, brag about what you got, even if it's a studio. You know what I mean? Like, really be out there and your story, man. I mean, to go from being in the hood to getting your degree, that is an accomplishment that a lot of these kids need to hear, because they can relate to you. I grew up in the street, I started doing that, whatever, and then be like, wow, you actually got your degree from USC, man. That's an accomplishment. So I would say anybody who's listening, everybody's got a skill set, apply it, master it, and help somebody out.
Yeah. And I want to say one last thing too. I forgot to mention, I know it's a little controversial, but it's all about facts. A lot of people don't know the cartels are really moving into California, into the Central Valley. They're taking over Humboldt, like a lot of those people who make all the marijuana and everything. And also a lot of the cartels are moving into a lot of these homeless encampments. Hey, try these new drugs. What do you think? As their guinea pigs, or paying them, or maybe there's cartels disguised as homelessness to see what's going on. Oh yeah, they're coming right. They're sneaking in. They're taking over California.
Yeah, I would say until we start creating a safe space for those that can't take care of themselves, creating community wherever we're at. I work with youth, so like you're saying, I got a few youth that are like, man, I ain't never met nobody who like went to prison and then came back and tried to help us. Usually the homies bolt because they ain't trying to get caught up again. But that that's what my little mentoring, I guess, if you want to call it that, what I do. But it's creating community, because like a lot of these folks don't have family. So if you can create family for somebody, that's something anybody could do, And I mean, and it makes a difference. You know, it makes a difference because then if instead of them like going and making some crazy decision, they got they got Flo or Mega. It's Mega Man, correct?
Correct.
And or my brother Brown here, and they have somebody that they can talk to. But yeah, it I don't know about. And then one of my coworkers was saying holding these agencies accountable. That's real, because some of them are just putting in a band-aid, like she put in the comment, and they're not doing the work. They're just housing people like if it was a jail again. But yeah, that's what I think. Just create community. That's what a regular person could do without being a professional.
Yeah.
That'll make a
Yep.
difference.
Yep. Ooh, I seen the comment. I seen the comment on here. People that get out of the barrio don't come back and help. Man, that's crazy, bro. Like, Chicano marketer, bro. You gotta come on here and talk about that, man, because that's a real one. That's a real thing right there, man. That a lot of people that get to a certain point in their life and talked all that good mess while coming up about, oh, my people, my people. Once they get to a certain platform and stuff, it's like you're on your own, gente. It's like, what's up with that? What's up with that, man? You know what I mean? So why are we promoting these people that don't come back and help our people? Why are we putting them in a certain, you know what I mean, cheering them on for what? You know what I mean? Pero that's another plática for people that are gonna come on. Pero thank you guys for giving your 2 cents on this, man. Much appreciated. And let's continue this, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Have them
Good.
good pláticas, man.
See y'all later.
Brother.
Peace.
All right, guys. Buenas noches. All right, people. I I watched a lot of documentaries. I was watching one that they were talking about this homelessness problem, right? And they were talking about the fact that a lot of people, I mean, the people that are in control, like in government and whatnot, they know how to resolve this issue. They just don't do it because there's a lot of profit in it, right? The shelters and all this and that, there's profit. There's millions of dollars being poured into this issue of homeless problem, right? And all that money, you know what I mean? So it's like there's money in it. Where there's money involved, best believe there'll be corruption involved. But with that said, let me bring in the other people that will be giving their 2 cents on this issue. So who did I say I was going to bring on? Oh, he's not on here anymore. All right, well, I'm going to send some invites to see who wants to join in. But yeah, they made a lot of good points. They made a lot of good points. We need to start by educating the young ones, or even people that have messed up and want a second chance. Like, you know what I mean? Like they need to be educated to know so they won't make that fucked up choice the next time, right? Hey, how's it going?
Hi.
Uh,
Sorry.
yeah, can you introduce yourself real quick for our listeners that are only listening through the audio platforms?
My name is Patty. I'm in Orange County.
Okay, that's what's up. So, how much of it have you listened to this topic?
I only listened to a portion of it, but the thing is, I don't think people realize that government officials from other states are giving one-way tickets to people to come here to California that are homeless. And I don't think that people understand that certain counties, especially certain cities, are targeted and are given funds to get to those cities, or they're dropped off by cops at those cities to focus the homelessness on certain spots. And you're spot on. There is a lot of money. They can take care of it because every county has money that's allocated through their board of supervisors. Unfortunately, most of these supervisors in every county, at least in the state of California, are corrupt, dirty pieces of shit that don't take care of their community, but they continue to accept the funds that the state offers. So it's a problem. You can fix it, but unfortunately, there's too many corrupt politicians that don't want to change it because the money's too good for them. So
Dang, that's a yeah, it is. Power corrupts people. Like, best believe it. Even in the most delicate of situations. Hey, what's up, man?
What's up?
Even where it deals with like our children, that should be like top priority, right? But I mean, teachers aren't getting paid the way they should be paid. So in turn, they don't put their best effort into. Well, the good ones always put their best effort into into being a teacher. But that just pushes people to be terrible teachers, right? Because the pay is not that great. So then in turn, students don't become well educated. In turn, they make poor choices in society, and then thus we come to this issue, homeless issue, right? So um, how let me see, the problem with people with severe mental disabilities, right? Can they re-enter society and be a productive member of society again, or is it, are we just doomed to like repeat itself, that they do something wild in the streets and then they end up back where they were already? I mean, what do you think, King Mexico?
Now, when it comes down to like health, mental health, that's a huge issue to attack. You know what I mean? Because everybody has a different situation or a different way to attack their, the mental health that they have and their health. And I personally deal with it every day, right? Some people want the help, but most of the time they just want to be left alone and deal with it on their own. So you know how the saying goes, you can bring the horse or the donkey to the pond, but you can't make it drink, right? So the same thing with someone. If you give them the help, they don't want it. This situation is like out here in New York, right? People will go and give the homeless like food, money, and sometimes you know what they do with all the food you give them? They throw that shit in the garbage. They don't want it. They give them clothes, they'll just leave it. It's like, I don't want this shit. I want money. So dealing with it on a daily basis, you start looking at things a little bit different, right? And then you become immune, which is bad. You know what I mean? Like you become immune to the situation, right? But then also you have to look at it, you have to become human at the same time, right? Because all right, so all of us grew up in certain neighborhoods, right? We see violence every single day in our life, right? If you hear gunshots, you just keep walking. Why? Because it's a normal thing. You see an addict on the corner, you keep walking. Why? Because it's a normal thing. So same thing goes with like homelessness and mental illness. You see this every day, every day, every day. That eventually you kind of like, you know what? It is what it is, you know? And it's sad, you know? And like everybody has said, it's all about the profit. And when you're homeless, the pharmaceutical companies can't make money off of you. At the end of the day, they can't make money off of you. And then even the aid that they get is not as well given as to other people. You got me? So, so it's just a real tricky situation.
It is, bro, and that's how they wiggle themselves in to make that profit, because we don't know the answer. We don't. I mean, they have people that are like super attentive into figuring out the all these different variations of how people live, right? They hire people like this, right? I'm sure they do. If they hire people to to go in and figure out all these things about the nation's wealth and the nation's allocation of money and all this, they know exactly where money goes, who pockets certain money. They know all this, just like they know how to end this plague of homelessness, which is really, like I said, it starts from the fact that we don't put enough funds or enough emphasis on schools and making sure that we teach the young the right things, because a lot of the young don't have that at home. They don't have the luxury of parents, right? A lot of young don't, and it's like, whose problem is that then? It's a society's problem. Now let's go into this. What is the best realistic action that one can take to help homeless people, like in your immediate neighborhood? We'll go to Patty for that one.
I mean, you can always participate in a local with like a local organization, but in reality, that really does nothing. You have to participate at things from a county level, right? Because again, every county has money allocated to it. And the whole homelessness problem, it is a situation created by the government. Because, an example, the city of Anaheim. Um, when they help the unhoused there, they tell them, we can help you with shelter, with food, with medical assistance, but you have to agree to either get on the right medication or become sober. When they decline it, the offer is then taken away from them. They can't take it. But a lot of this, honestly, it's created on purpose. I mean, when you were talking about like the whole gentrification and people getting pushed out and then they become homeless, I don't think most people understand the the transactions that are going on at state levels to create more of this. For instance, did you know that if a lot of the Chinese, when they're buying a lot of the properties over here, they're investing so much money that they're given green cards? People that are coming to the States purchasing these green cards are coming along with it. So obviously the wealthy are getting helped, but those of us that don't have the money, we're fucked. Again, I think you have to fight it at a county level to really make any kind of impact, at least in your own neighborhoods, because you can't continue to put a band-aid on it. You can't continue to put a band-aid on it because it's not going to go away. When you have a government telling you, hey, here's safe places so you can go and get high, it's pretty much like telling a heroin addict, oh, well, go get on methadone, when methadone and heroin are the exact same thing. You cannot continue to put a band-aid if you're going to really want to fix a problem, that there is a way to fix it. It's just holding your public officials accountable for the fuckery that they're doing to ruin our neighborhoods. And I apologize if I sound angry, but when I meet unhoused people and I hear all the different stories, it's really fucked up how a lot of them end up there in the first place. And a lot of the time is no fault of their own, but because they're being pushed out for reasons that they have no control over. That's the sad part. And the money is there, but these corrupt politicians don't put the money in the right places. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So
And,
advocate.
and by all means, like, it's a frustration. I mean, that's why I love having these talks, because like it's a frustration that people are too busy in their daily lives. That's kind of like one of the reasons why a lot of people can't do anything, because they're barely getting by themselves. You know what I mean? Like I have a lot of kids, like, so I'm super busy. Like, you know what I mean? So much that I would like to do, but it's like, when I gotta tend to my flock, right? I gotta tend to my kids. I gotta be there and make sure that they don't fall into that trap, because it really is a trap. And
Yeah.
the sooner we realize that it's a trap, and it's like Flo said, it's a survival of the fittest. And it is like we're living in the fucking jungle. It really is a jungle, but it's a more structured jungle. See, the jungle is a wildlife, right? It's a literal wildlife, right? But this is structured wildlife, if you think about it. And who structures it? People. They know what they're doing. They structure it so we can fail, and we can repeat a cycle if we don't catch it. But see, it's up to us to catch it and tell the next person, yo, watch out for that bear trap. It's right there. What's the bear trap? Oh, we gotta teach our own how to deal with things in society the proper way. Because if not, we get caught by the cops. If you're a person of color, even with more chances, you'll get, fucked by the cops, by the system. And then it's like, that's why, it's a trap. So, like, when I reflect back and think about like the stuff that I've seen, like, even, and I have a whole different view, and people that been to a third world country, and have roots from a third world country and whatnot, and then come back to this place and they see how what a different world it is, right? Like Mexico is a lot of the places in Mexico is a third world country. Like they're living in poverty, like poverty. You know what I mean? And my family comes from a pueblo where they used to take me all the time as a kid, and I seen poverty like crazy, like literally people begging, going to the church and on their knees begging to God for at least some potatoes for their family. Like that's poverty. Like, and as a kid, that shit broke my fucking heart. You know what I mean? Like, how the fuck can this world be like that? That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, so it just turns you into a certain person. And I guess some people see this, but it doesn't do nothing to them emotionally, and they just become so cold-hearted that they just like, well, fuck everyone. You know what I mean? Or someone could have came up a certain way, and the world fucked them over, so now they're cold-hearted. I don't know. It's a different, and then they go into politics or some shit. I don't fucking know. But see, there's a multitude of different reasons why people become homeless, right?
Of course.
Now, do you feel that is a duty of people in the community to do something about this issue, or is it up to others? Should we leave it up to others like we always do, right? What do
Nah,
you guys think?
No,
personally,
it's community. All about community. You don't fix your community if people don't get involved. You take care of what's in your own backyard and the people that surround you, because they're not someone else's problem. They're your neighbors, housed or unhoused. They're your neighbors, and we can't rely on other people. We just can't. If we don't help each other, no one is going to help us. There is no savior out there that's going to say, oh, look at these groups of people over here. Let me help them. No, they'll use them as a photo op. That's the best that they'll get. They'll use them for optics. But will they actually break bread with someone in a curb? No. And people have to start being kinder. But it starts with the people around you, housed or unhoused. They're your neighbors, like it or not. They're not someone else's problem. They're your own community. So,
yeah. So I'm gonna come from the devil's advocate point of view, right? Because I think sometimes you have to play the bad guy to
of
be
course.
for everybody to meet in the middle ground. Because we all can't be the good guys, you know? So is it really the community or the government's issue to help? Like a perfect example, right? The homie Mega Man, right? He always brings up his story, which is crazy and it's sad, but he got out of it. He got out of that situation. Why? Because he wanted to, right? So my thing is, we all are dealt the same cards, right? And when I say we all, meaning us people of color, right? We're all dealt the same card. Some of us might have it easier, some of us have it harder, right? And like you said, when you go to your pueblo, right? And you would see that, right? And here's something that I came out with once. Me and my mom chilling in the car, right? And she told me how she grew up, right? That sometimes she would go to sleep hungry, you know what I mean? And she would like dream about eating a meal. And she's like, yo, that's how I would fold my stomach at night. I'll go to sleep hungry, but I know in my dream, I'm going to eat. I'm going to have a biggest fest in the world. So then she looks at us, her kids, and she's like, I'm a millionaire. Never in my life did I ever expect to be able to eat whatever I want and be able to throw food away sometimes because I can't eat it. But here's the thing too, because growing up, I was taught not to throw food away. So, so if I ate rice and I got served a certain amount, I would have to eat all of it. Because she's like, yo, you got to eat it all because you don't know about tomorrow. What happens if you got no food? So then it hit me that day when she told me that. It's like, damn. And then when you see people on the street and you see kids, that's what hurts me the most. When I see the kids with the parent. And it's like, they can't do much. You know what I mean? Like some people, they're selling their oranges, they're selling the candy, right? and you could give them the help, right? But you can't give them all the help. Because if you help them, right? Let's say you give them your last $1,000, right? How are you going to make the $1,000 now for yourself to look out for you and your family, right? But everybody has a different path. And if you want to pick up a great book, pick up the Danny Trejo book. That book right there, he talks about how when he hit rock bottom and he went to Skid Row in a Rolls Royce, and he had no money left in his pocket. I think it was $1,000 too, but he had like his family, like he was alone. Technically, he was like outcast. He was alone, and he seen this little girl or like a mom with the kid, and he gave them the last $1,000 he had in his pocket, and he didn't know how he was gonna make it out of that. And I think out of nowhere, he got to receive the call from an agent, and he's like, "Yo, like God is real." And that's the end of the day. It's like that's all we have is faith. Some of us might not believe in it. Some of us might be like, "Oh, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe in religion." Right? But we're in the dire need, and we're in the bottom of our life. We always look for the Lord. And I don't care how many times you tell me, "Oh, I don't believe it. I don't believe it." But when you're in the dying bed, right? You, you say, "God help me." And I've seen that shit multiple times, bro. People who be like, "Oh, I don't believe," until that shit
Even an
hit.
atheist does it too, bro. Atheists do that too.
Yes, they do it too. So in general, it's like when it comes down to the whole situation with homeless, why can't we, like you said, it starts at home. We gotta let our kids know right and wrong. But then this generation is like kids raising kids, and whole, the whole like the way society currently is, right? You can't raise your kids the way we were raised. Why? Because it's harsh. It's not the right way. But we all grew up having tough skin. Like we able to take it. But now it's come to a point where it feels like you have damn, what's the word I'm looking for? Entitlement.
Hmm.
A lot of
The
this youth,
popular word.
yeah, a lot of this youth feels entitled. Perfect example in New York, right? We have a lot of people surfing on the top of the train. So they go on top of the train and they stand on it. So it's called train surfing. So this week, a 15-year-old died. So the parent was mad at the transit system because the transit system should have had some type of boundary so the kid wouldn't get up to the top of the train and surf. But I'm like, it starts with you at home. It doesn't start with a transit system. It's the parents has to tell the kids like, yo, that shit is dumb. Like, why would you do something like that? It's like all of us grew up. If your friends jump off the bridge, will you jump off? In today's world, you can't ask your kid that. Because if you tell your kids, oh, if your friends jump off, would you do it? Yes. If I'm gonna be on Instagram or TikTok, yes, I'm gonna jump off. How many kids do we not see in the streets doing their little TikTok dances and stuff? So it's like
Damn.
it's all for a life.
Yep. That's crazy,
And then
man.
and then also going back to like Skid Row, right? There's some people who live on Skid Row or homeless by choice.
Yeah.
Is by choice. Why? Because they have worked the way in that they know how to work the system. And that's another that's where my thing is like yes, everybody gets help. You could get free drugs, you could get a meal, but sometimes you should make it harder. So if you know you're gonna end up on the road, yes, it's messed up to be like, yo, go break that tent down. Now you got to figure it out. You can't come back here. You got to get hit with reality. Like, nah, this is it. That like enough is enough. It's like us growing up. If we were wilding out, right? What would our parents do? Kick us out the house. You want to sell drugs? Go do it outside, but you're not doing it in my house. Same thing goes with it's just tough love, and somebody has to do it. Yes, it's harsh to do it, right? Yes, it's gonna be looking. We're gonna look like assholes. We're gonna look mean, and like you said, we can't count on our government because at the end of the day, it's all about profit. It's all about profit, and then the
That's true, man.
community, always tend to look away. We always look away. Why? Because we get into situations where we try to help, and they're like, "I don't want your help. Get out my face." So if you go to 100 people, right, and 70 of them say that to you, eventually you're gonna give up. And like you said yourself, right? You have your kids, right? But if you go and help out other people, right? Now who's helping your family if you're helping somebody else? Now who got your back if you happen to fall behind on your bill?
That's true. That's true, man. But another thing is that people are quick to call the cops on like I'm sure in your immediate like town there's a nice part of the town and then there's a fucked up part of the town where there's like a lot of homeless and drug infested and shit like that, right? Every town has that, like for
Nah,
the most
I
part, a
hear
lot of
bro, it's all
towns
over.
has that.
Like
So
you
for
Oh
have,
yeah,
example,
over here, yeah,
for
I hear,
towns that have like a nice part of town and stuff like that, when homeless start going towards that side of the town, cops get they call the cops on them right away. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But when over here on this part of town, when this is it's a lot of homeless people, like and it's like for some reason it's a lot of white homeless people, even though this is like the barrio. You know what I mean? So it's weird. It's a weird thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, how, how did that happen? Why don't they be homeless in their part of town, right? I mean, not to sound, whatever, you know what I mean? But like, if Latinos were to be homeless in where with more whites, they'll call the cops on them quick, right?
yeah. You
So it's
can't go
like,
to
they'll
it
get
doesn't
Beverly
rolled
make
out.
sense. You know what I mean?
They'll get rolled out.
Yeah. But like, so now to end this conversation with you guys right now, what would be something that you guys would implement to make at least a little change for your immediate community when it comes to the homeless issue?
You want to go first or
me.
me?
Nah, ladies
Whoever
first.
was.
This is tough. Like this is really
All right.
tough.
Go ahead,
um,
Patty.
I go to a lot of um, different board meetings, and I honestly believe the only way we're going to make any kind of difference is to hold our local representatives and anything accountable for all the shitty stuff that's happening everywhere, especially with the homelessness. Um, I always read a lot of contracts with the money. That's why I keep going back to the government and all of these contracts that I read. There's so much money for these people, but because no one holds anyone accountable, it's not accessible to the people that need it. I mean, because yeah, I say help in your own backyard. You can only do so much. Yes, it is a free choice whether you want to be homeless or not, but some people genuinely need that help, and the money's there. The way I see it is, if you can help, if you can help just a portion of your community, that means something. And I think most people can start by holding their local officials accountable for this shit, because we're here because of the corruption that has pushed people to the streets. You're in New York, I'm here in California, and the fuckery that they're doing here should discuss every single person that lives here in this state, because what we're seeing is no fault of our own. It's the fault of the public officials that have failed every single community, especially people of color, because we're the disposable ones that no one gives a shit about. And And if you do see them in a predominantly white area, yeah, you'll get picked up by the cops to roll you out, and they'll put you in a more ghetto-ish city, if that's how you want to call it, because that's what they call it, right? If you look like you can blend in, they'll throw your ass there because there's no compassion, and they want to keep certain areas looking crisp and clean. So my thing is, go to whatever your city council, board of supervisors, and start holding these assholes accountable for all the fuckery that they're doing, because they're the cause of a lot of these problems. It's not just the people, because most people can't help it. At least here. At least here they can't. Because it's proven with the jobs, it's proven with the housing. There's reasons for it. So my thing is, go to a meeting. Go to a meeting sometime and let them know how pissed you are, and let them know that if they don't start doing what they promised to do, that the next turnaround, you're not going to vote for their asses, and see if they start changing their tune. Because here where I live, when we start holding these assholes accountable, trust and believe they start listening, because they know that the next election, their asses, it's not a secure seat. So that's my suggestion to anyone.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. King
Nah, that's
Mexico, what do you think
pretty
about
down
that, bro?
right there. Like you gotta hold your public officials accountable for it. And then if you can, you know what I mean, help here and there, you know, if you're able to donate or give some money to somebody, but just make sure when you're giving the money to these foundations that the money is going towards helping and not
Yeah.
just being used as a technically as a profit. And it's like, yo, let's just open up a shelter and just let's do this, but we're gonna end up just giving them $1 out of the $1 million we're collecting. So besides the politicians, you also have to hold accountable the people who start these aids, you know, aids towards the homeless. That's you know, it's at the end of the day you just got to hold people accountable. And here's the thing, right?
That's
So
true.
like my cat just walked by, right? How is it that an animal sometimes, I'm not saying that is, I'm comparing one to another, but when you put it into the broader perspective, right? When is a dog, a cat, a chicken, or an animal, and why is their life more important than the human life? Correct or not correct, you know? Which is messed up to say it like that.
But it's true. You're not lying.
Are you suggesting that these rich white girls walk around, instead of walking around with a poodle all like groomed up, they should pick up a homeless dude and groom him up, or what?
Yeah, why not, bro? Take it. Yo, because y'all be doing that stuff out there, and it's pretty cool. Y'all take somebody, y'all give them a haircut, y'all give them clean clothes,
That's
and
what's
they
up,
happy,
man.
you know what I mean?
I mean, it sounds like a joke, but no, I mean that's true though. You know what I mean? It's true. I mean, if you think about it humanitarianly, like, you know what I mean, in that sense of looking at it like we're humans, right? Right? Even after humans are gone, animals are gonna continue. I believe. I think animals are gonna continue even further than the humans, because we we are the only species that actually kill ourselves. Did you know that? We're the only species that commit suicide.
And here's another
That's
one.
crazy.
Why do we always have funding for other people's problems, but not for the ones at home?
Mm,
Again, corrupt government officials. Corrupt.
So we
Corrupt.
had this.
They're disposable.
So in the podcast when I have Mega Man, we just spoke about how Flint, still water is still bad, right? And now we have Ohio, and it's gonna eventually affect all of us, you know,
Yeah.
down the line.
that's gonna trickle down, bro. It's always a trickle down effect, bro. But yeah, man. With that said, man, thank you guys for coming on the live and giving your 2 cents. I know this one's giving some feedback.
Damn, we trying to
So,
shut you up, bro.
you guys for coming on
We
the
trying to
live
shut
and
you
giving
Good
us your
night.
up.
2 cents, bro. And Patty, and uh, go ahead, and if anyone wants to, like, hit you up for what I mean, to chop it up with you guys, or whatever you guys are doing. I know King Mexico has his platform. It's the Patty. Go ahead and shoot out. What I mean, where people can hook you up. I mean, hit you up at.
Just on Instagram, on Strawberrini. That's it. Patty Cabada. That's my thing. So
Cool. King Mexico,
Yeah, I read.
shout out, bro. Your
Yeah,
platform, man.
yeah. So King Mexico podcast available on all major platforms. So go check it out. YouTube soon on Rumble. So they stopped freaking throwing my video all the way in number hundreds on YouTube and stuff, and you can't find my video. So hopefully
mhm.
Rumble's different.
That's what's up. That's what's
Rumble's
up.
good though. You won't
Yeah,
get shut down.
exactly.
All right, y'all. Have
Thank
a
you
good
guys.
night. Thank you
Sure.
for
Good
coming
night.
on. Appreciate it. Good night. Well, you know, they made a lot of good points. You know, a lot of points that, you know, like the whole humanitarian thing where, you know what I mean, people, a lot of people take care of animals better than take care of their, you know what I mean, their fellow human, you know, neighbor. You know what I mean? So, like, where is that going to take us in the future? You know what I mean? How are we ever going to find solutions to problems like this if we don't take care of our immediate surroundings, right? Our immediate neighborhoods, like, and I have fault in it too. Like I said, you know what I mean? Like I'm so busy that I don't even talk to my neighbors, and that's a fucked up thing. That's a fucked up thing that it came from when we were in Mexico. You know, my lineage. The pueblos knew each other. Everyone, you know what I mean. They even had feasts together, comían juntos. You know what I mean. The whole pueblos and stuff like that. And then acá vivemos now. Now we live over here in the United States. So now it's like it's another beast. You know what I mean. But let's not let this beast consume who we really are. What we come from. Let's not let this corruption corrupt us into something that we're not. Right. So let's make a whole, you know what I mean, turnaround on this whole desmadre because we gotta. I mean, where are we gonna end up? I'm my first generation of Mexican American. I'm the first generation. That's crazy. So and like that's what I'm saying. Like if I don't do something about it, me being first generation in my family, uh, second generation, I hope is better than the first because I learned what not to do. Right? I fucked up, and now I learn what not to do. And I hope my kids. I mean, I know they're gonna fuck up in certain things because that's just a human. You know, what I mean, as humans, we fuck up and then we get back up, right? But I hope they learn how not to do things the first time because I'm the example, right? But anyway, with that said, I want to bring the last group of people to this conversation of homelessness versus sheltered, and I want to send invites for the last group. Let's see. What's up, Smokey? ¿Cómo estás, bro? I'm gonna just send a couple of them.
Oh
See
shit!
who joins on. Oh, what's up? What's up, Carnal? How you doing,
What's up,
bro?
man? Hey, my bad, Spencer. I just got home from work. Shit.
Hey, all
Hey,
good, bro. All good, man.
man. Every time I was
How
trying
was the
to get
holiday, bro?
online and do like a thing,
How you
you know,
doing?
It was
I don't know.
Yeah. So, did you guys catch any of this conversation so far? So, we had a lot of good points. I mean, you guys can watch it again. I'm gonna save it on my platform on my Instagram post. But so far we talked about how people with mental disabilities that are also homeless,
yeah.
how what effect do they have in the community? Like the question that I had posed was do people with mental disabilities or mental disorders that are homeless, can they re-enter society and be a productive member of society again? Do you think
I
that's possible?
um I feel that it's based on what their if their mental health is well enough to rejoin into society, then yes, absolutely. Speaking from experience firsthand, I have a sister, unfortunately, that has been in and out of the system, and she was on meth, and we've gotten, we had to do a 5150 on her. I was one that signed the paperwork, and it was very hard to do that because I'm the youngest of six, and she's my eldest sister. She's my father's namesake. She went missing for like 2 years. She was on the streets. we finally found her. Being a Catholic, I kind of made like a promise or like a petition to God saying, if you help me find her, I'll do X, Y, and Z, because that's kind of how I was taught. In the beginning of COVID, I started doing food blogging. So that's where my name, Cali Girl Eats, comes from. But my name is Cindy Aguilar. And I ended up finding her. And that was pretty amazing, number one, because kind of just making this petition to God and saying, I'm going to do this blanket drive. And if I complete this mission, I'm asking you, God, to find my sister Francine. And he did. And what was so crazy is here she was living in one of the government provided Motel 6 right off of the freeway in Hacienda Heights. And at the time, I was hanging out with some food bloggers and podcasters because everybody was on lockdown. And we were able to find her. But really, it's up to her. What I learned, because I'm the youngest of 6, all my older sisters and my brother, they were like, be careful, you're trying to reconnect with her. She's lost, she's mentally ill. And me, because I kind of think more with my heart, unfortunately, it's a good and a bad thing. I was determined to find her because I had a dream. And in my dream, my dad came to me and said, find my daughter. And me being very obedient to my father, I was determined to find her. And so mission accomplished. I don't take the glory of finding her. I kind of look at it like God blessed me to find her. She cleaned up her act, and she's still living in one of the, motels where the government is providing. And I pray for her, and I hope that she gets better. She's like 60 something years old, so my thing is more like, is time lost for her? Her life has gone by. She's been married, she's raised kids, but at some point, she had, maybe in her 30s or her 40s, like you wake up and realize, like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I behaving this way? And who am I living for? For me, my daughter is my life. My daughter, she's going to be 21 in June. She's studying to become a nurse. She just passed her TEAS exam. The reason why I bust my ass and work hard every day is to provide, and as a single mom, to provide for her. And everything that I do, whether it be calculating or not, I make no quorums over it. I make no apologies for it. I grind every day for her. And I know my parents, they busted their ass. My dad worked 6 days a week. He'd work Monday through Friday at the factory because they owned a manufacturing business. And on Saturday, they would go to Violence Swap Meet and sell clothes. So to me, it's disrespectful to my dad and to my mom, to my father's legacy and to his memory, if I don't get up and work. And my dad used to wake us up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday. We didn't watch cartoons. He would wake us up and say, wake up and die right. Get up. We're cleaning the backyard. We're mowing the lawn. We're picking up trash. I answered my father, yes, sir. No, sir. And I grew up very traditionally, where we would go to church on Wednesday for catechism, and we were at 7 o'clock mass, or 9 o'clock mass. But that's how I was raised. I was raised very traditionally. And so for me, it's kind of the flip, where I've kind of hovered my daughter, because being a single mom, I made sure I dropped her off, picked her up from school. And I realized I started to fall under the trap of being that helicopter mom. But what I realized is, now that she's 20, I've pulled back, and I'm like, no, you're going to grow up the way I grew up, where my dad disciplined me and he gave me a little bit of slack. But then if I earned his trust, then he'd give more slack. And so now that's what I'm doing with my daughter. I'm like, look, you want to go out, you want to have friends, you want to go spend money, you want to spend mom's money, show me the grades. You get A's, cool. You show me a C, you ain't getting nothing, And so I'm proud of the fact that she grinds, she busts her ass. If she doesn't work, but I purposely don't want her working, because I want her to study. Right now she has straight A's and she passed her TEAS test, so she's able to apply to 7 different nursing schools. And I don't want to repeat that cycle. I don't want to have her working morning, mid shift, night shift, double time. I don't want her doing that. I've been blessed to study fashion merchandising, kind of follow in my parents' footsteps of the fashion industry. But even my job is hard, and I want her to follow her dream of her becoming a nurse and not end up on the streets, homeless or in a shelter, unfortunately, like my eldest sister.
And
Lastly,
that's beautiful.
la- last,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
lastly, I'll close with this. When I became a food blogger and I was able to do what I did with the help of some friends, podcasters / food bloggers, I was very blessed that we were able to raise like over 300 blankets and drive to Skid Row and hand deliver it. But to the point that you made earlier in when you're talking, there are services. There's a soup line, there's a blanket line, there's a shoe line. I mean, yes, we're giving stuff and we see the need, and we are our brother's keeper. We are our brother's keeper. Each and every one of us, whether you're black, brown, Asian, white, whatever, we are the human race. And it doesn't matter whether you're independent, whether you voted for Bernie, whether you're Obama, whether you're Trump, it doesn't fucking matter. All those labels, it's been dividing families, mine in particularly. It's caused brothers and sisters to argue, me and my sisters, not the one that's, in and out. But it's divided families, cousins, brothers, sisters. And for what? I'm not perfect by any means. I make mistakes. I'm very strong-minded, very strong-willed. Because of what I've gone through in life, and I can list BS that I've gone through, but why? I will focus on the positive that God has pulled me through it, and the lessons that I've taken, the L's that I've taken, I've turned into lessons, because that's what my daughter's looking at. I'm her teacher. And believe me, she's watching every single move that I make, whether it's positive or negative. And even some of the negatives that I've made, she's like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? I'm like, look, I have my life too. I'm trying to make myself happy. Sometimes you make some good choices, sometimes you make some bad choices, but we live our life. We try to do the best, wake up every day and do another day. Thank you.
And first of all, I want to say thank you for sharing that story and also that quote. ¿Cómo era? Wake up to die right.
To die right. My dad used to say, my dad was born in 1927.
Wow.
My dad was 37 years older than my mom. My mom met my dad. My mom was from Boyle Heights. My dad had I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, so forgive me. Maquivendora, is that how you say it? Like a manufacturing where the sewers and the seamstress work. And he had a team of seamstress in a warehouse. And back in those days, the garment industry was ran by nothing but Italians and Jews. And my dad was one of a handful of Hispanic men that was Chicano that owned his business. Now, the story goes that he had to borrow some money from an Italian, Sicilian Italian man to start up his business, but he fucking paid him off and he did it. And I love the fact that my dad busted his ass for my brothers and sisters, because I'm proud that the second to the oldest is in a political form that she worked on the Obama campaign and the Trump campaign. And then my sister below her, she used to work in corporate, Liz Claiborne, a long company. Now she's with Christian Dior. My brother, he has his own truck. He's a truck driver. My sister Valerie's a baker at Orlando, and then me. So I look at it like, with the exception of the one, none of us have been in jail, with the exception of the one. But I'm not looking to judge my sister. She has her own demons that she's gone through. Some of the ones she's created herself, and some of the ones she chooses to revisit. All I can do is pray for her. And, naively, I tried to help her again and try to find her and seek her out. And my brother was like, well, what is she asking you for? And I'm like, she wanted me to go to the grocery store, and I was getting her some things. What would you have if you're living in the fucking hotel? You want Campbell's soup, peanut butter, Spam, whatever, that kind of stuff. But then the grocery list changed to, can you get me a couple of bottles of wine? Can you get me some sugar? Can you get some Robitussin? Can you get me this? And I'm like, why do you need sugar? why do you need wine? Why do you need Robitussin? Why do you need this cough syrup? And my brother's like, she's fucking cooking shit. And it was like, oh, because see, I never went down that. I mean, the worst I ever do is drink a beer and smoke a joint, you know? So once I started to realize what she was asking for, it's like, okay, I have to step back. And all I have to do is just pray the Holy Spirit and ask them to intervene because I can't fix this. You know, Cindy Aguilar cannot fix this, but God can. So for
There you go.
my own sanity and for the sake of not have her around that, I do that. But I pray for her every day, you know, and it's hard because not everybody that's homeless is on drugs. You know, some people
Mm.
through circumstance, through maybe just being young and being misguided and not having good role models and examples. You know, maybe being living with the extended family and then being kicked out because the family that offered you a place and a roof over your head, it changes. It happens, you know. I was married once upon a time and homeboy thought he could put his hands on me and I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like I'm gonna step and I had to move out, you know, and I look back at that time, I'm so blessed that I had someone that had my back and had my daughter's back and said, here, I'll help you. You know, when I think about it, yeah, I could have went to a shelter myself. I could have easily fell into that. And I'm lucky that I had friends and family.
You know, I read up on a lot of factors of why people end up homeless, and domestic abuse for women is the number one cause for why they end up in shelters and homeless. In the barrios, that's a common thing. Why a lot of men are imprisoned, um, and which leads to, because it's a stressor, any stressor, like I said before, any stressors for men, things that make them stressed, worried, whatever, that men in the barrio don't have soothing, they don't know how to soothe themselves when it comes to stressors.
Yeah, they don't know how to cope and they don't know other than drugs and alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
how I relax. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do I drink a beer? Do I, you know, smoke a joint? But what are the other things that they can do? You know, reading, writing, conversating with, you know, their friends, having these discussions. And I think for me, that's the most important thing. I like that social media has brought in this platform for men such as yourself and others that you've had on your platform to communicate, because
Mm-hmm.
without that, I'm telling you, their mental health is going to be far worse than what it is.
Yeah.
And including myself, you know, and some of these people you've had on your platform, I've had conversations with, and I tell them, like, there's people that look to you for that advice and for that
Mm.
consult, myself included. Like, there's certain conversations that you'll have with your girlfriends and with your family and friends, but then there's certain conversations that you don't want to bring your skeletons out. So you look for answers elsewhere. And fortunately,
Yeah.
there's been people that I follow that have had those answers, and I'm like, I'll do that.
Yeah. Now, let's go to this now. As for reflecting back and thinking of how this the issue of homelessness and just being conflicted with not knowing what to do to put your part into your particular environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
What can we do as like just regular folk? You know what I mean? To implement something to help the problem. Smokey, go ahead, Carnal, and give us your 2 cents on that, man.
Uh, so back in the day, whenever I was be with my family walking around, and we go to Chuco or we go to Juaritos or something, we would see that a lot. Now we're starting to see it where I'm from, down here in Kansas, a lot more. And back then, my parents would just say, "Keep walking, ignore them." You know,
Mm,
no le des ni un peso. They just negative stuff about it.
mm,
But I mean, now it's like, man, it's becoming a problem to where a lot of people are starting to become, homeless. So it's like one of them things where you stop to ask yourself, is it really becoming a problem? Is there something that us that aren't homeless, or is it the government? Is it us? I mean, we're just blaming somebody else. We want somebody else to blame. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to think about that. I used to not give them any money. I used to just keep walking like my parents. But you can really make their day, and you see it, man. When you just, hey, it's cold outside.
And
Like
sometimes it's not even money though. Sometimes it could be
no,
white
I always buy them food.
or
Or if it's cold out, I'll go to the tienda and les agarro una cobija, or something like that. Like, I mean, just, I mean, because sometimes they'll say, man, people been giving me food all day. I don't want no more food.
yeah.
I mean, kind of just size them up. They got holes in their shoes. So,
Yeah.
Hey, carnal, I think you're covering the speaker with something. Creo, no sé.
it's an old phone. Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go. I can hear
Okay.
you now.
Yeah, no, I was saying there's times I even try to get him a couple nights at a motel or something, try to help him out, and it's just something. I mean, rather than having that thought that, well, maybe they are going to use that money for something that I don't want them to use it for. I mean, so that way I could sleep good at night. I mean, you don't know if they're on drugs or not, man. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of people are not on drugs. I think they do have mental stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you see the same homeless people over and over and over, and they're the same every time. They're reacting a way that one usually wouldn't, or they're sleeping in the middle of the street. Stuff like that. Like, I mean, it's a lot of people quick to judge, and they put it into the kids' head that they're on drugs and stuff. So that's what we grow up thinking.
Yeah. On that note, bro, like it gets so dangerous sometimes, bro, where people that are like living in the streets and they're just it's basically their playground at one point because
Yeah.
they do they start taking off their shirt like if they're in their in their own playground, bro, and then it's like they start feeling like entitled to do what they please because that's they've become used to living in the street, so it becomes their
For
their
norm.
their um their personal space,
Yeah, yeah,
so
you
it's
do.
like
You do find those that are like disrespectful, like the ones that
yeah,
they claim to live in this alley. So when you're going to throw your trash or something, they'll hit you up or something.
yeah,
So you can't even send your kid to go throw the trash.
Yeah.
Whenever I first moved into this apartment complex, there's a guy I thought he was trying to fight me, but he kept walking past me and started fighting this tree, and we came back outside and he was sleeping next to the tree, and it was like 115 degrees outside. And my kids were like, the first thing my oldest said was he was on drugs. I'm like, nah, I don't think so, man. Like, you can tell he's not all there.
Yeah.
But anybody that walked by him, because I live by a motel, like, he thinks the motel is his.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody that gets a motel room, man, like and they're outside cooking out or something, he'll go up to them, and he's a big dude, So sometimes you get some of those, and sometimes you just get those wanderers. I mean, I think ultimately it's really how we react to it. I mean, we can't change the way that they are, the way they're living or whatever. But I mean, I tell my kids not to be rude to them. Not, just if they tell you something, you just say good morning or just keep walking. I mean, you're not gonna say anything nice, just don't say nothing, just keep walking.
Yeah.
I said, well, sometimes even that's rude, just not saying something. I mean, don't treat them less than you just because, I mean, you showered today and they didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
man,
it's
it's a lot of good points, bro. It's a lot of good points, and all this makes us be more empath like be more of an empath, right?
yeah,
Have some sympathy for them, right?
porque
Because
a un día, al otro, it could be you.
it could be us. Yep,
Literally,
exactly, bro.
life can really change in one
On a
second.
dime.
People do not understand that. People do not understand the phrase that says, just by walking out that door, I'm taking a risk.
Yeah.
Because you really are. I mean, something stupid, really, really stupid can happen. Somebody can drive their car into your fucking house.
Mm-hmm.
Some stupid shit, I mean, just something happened, and I mean,
Exactly.
or you just, I don't know. I mean, anything can take a toll in a matter of seconds or minutes.
That's right. Yeah.
So I mean,
Carnal Pete, man. Uh, I know you've been just listening to all this, man. What is your thoughts on all this, Carnal? I mean, I know you see it. How do you personally feel, bro, when you see homeless people and like it feels like it's getting younger and younger now, bro? It's sad, man.
Um, it is pretty sad. Um, I, I don't necessarily blame the people that are homeless. Um, I more look at it as this being the richest country in the world, and we can't provide some kind of mental or shelter for people in need. And it just makes me think always, what are the priorities of the people we elect in office, whether they're Republican or Democrat? It doesn't matter because neither of them have done shit for the people. You know, they say they do. Some say they'll do, but they do the opposite, and some say they'll do and they don't do nothing. So to me, it always goes back to who are our elected leaders that we or we don't vote in these elections that have governed where money goes that's supposed to go for. I mean, I'm not saying that's the answer, that money is the answer, but certainly providing resources for people that need should be considered a priority, you know, especially the thing, I mean, all homelessness, all people who are homelessness, I feel bad, right? But what ticks me a little bit even more off is when I see a veterano that has served his country, that is in a mental, not in a mental stability, uh, might be taking prescription drugs or something. I see him all the time at the VA. When I go to the VA myself, I see him. And I mean, sometimes I think the VA is the only place you can go and be comfortable because it's a big place and it's free, and you know they provide you with medical and so forth. But man, just knowing that these veteranos, their stories of what they've been through, what you know, what wars they were in, and they're in the street. Give and take that sometimes maybe you know it's a choice because they chose something else, but it doesn't mean that you can't give people a second chance. You know, it doesn't mean that you write off people. It doesn't matter if they're white, black, brown. They're human beings, and no one, I believe, in a country that has five-star hotels almost empty all the time, that someone's sleeping in the in the in the you know in the gutter or whatever. Um, I think sometimes these things are done on purpose to make a city look bad, just so that they can. I I read it somewhere. I don't know how true it is, but I understand that sometimes people buy big property and let it go deteriorate so that they can use eminent domain to get more funds from the government to get the place bought at a higher price. At the same time, they're giving that place a bad name so that they can get more funds in some ways. It's a dirty game, I think. But you know, these people, man, it's sad. And the worst is when you see a child out there. Oh man, that breaks my heart, bro. You know, that really breaks my heart. I don't care what color that child is. It's the child is out there in the street, you know. And yeah, I don't have an answer, or my opinion's not like where I can say it's a solution. I just think that our priorities in a society are not well put, like you know, not well defined. And if they are, the people we choose to push those priorities never do. Right?
They start at the election saying they will, but then when it comes down, they don't.
Yeah, and
and
that's
it's and
both
it's
parties. That's both
yeah, and
parties.
it's time and time again, and we still don't learn our lessons. But you know what?
Right.
Um, Now California is one of the richest states in the nation,
We're the fifth
and
global in the world.
yeah,
Or,
and
or
we're the you know what percentage homelessness we have compared to I mean in relation to the whole nation. 70%. 70% of the homeless problem come from California.
mhm.
That is fucking crazy.
You know, every time I get on
70%.
here with the majority of the people you have on your platform, Brown, are from California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy how it just blows my mind, man. Because in Kansas, I mean, the numbers are way lower than that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy how a lot of the shit that I didn't think is still relevant or still existing really is still existing. Like like holy shit. I mean, just slowly here recently that homelessness is coming to this little town that I live in. And I don't
Mhm.
know where in the hell it's coming from. And it's just kind of like a cancer. It's just starting to. There's a lot more homelessness here in this. I think the population here is probably like 29, 30,000. There's not many people here, and there's a lot of homeless just out of nowhere starting to come up. It's it's just crazy. I mean, and like the homie was saying, a lot of them are veterans. You know, it's like, so why do people still go and say that they're going to fight for their country, knowing that in 20 years that's going to be them possibly under the bridge? Like
Crazy. Now
it's
we know that it's all from not knowing, right, or not knowing better, right?
Mhm.
Like I said before, I really believe that it's a trap. That if we're not smart enough to outsmart what it is that the issue is, right? That we fall into these traps of like drug use and all these different elements that help push us to fail, right? So now, what do you propose is what what can help the youth be prepared to not become homeless, to not go down that route, because a lot of youth don't have the luxury of parents. They have, you know, they have people that look over them, maybe family members or whatnot. But parents, I believe, is the reason for the success of most youth. I know some youth, everyone has choices, so they end up in wrong following the wrong crowd or whatnot. But for the most part, I believe parents is what helps drive forward the success of the youth, right? What do you guys propose for what helps the youth, would help them to not go down that route of going into a homeless, life?
I mean,
don't break the
go ahead.
cycle, man, of
Yeah.
how one was raised. I mean, you know, I mean, I know I'm not raising my kids the way that my parents raised me, and they didn't raise me how their parents raised them. But I kind of seen how my parents were raised, but through my grandparents, because my grandparents were kind of in the way doing it with me as they did with my parents, but it was different. I seen this thing. He was like a scientist slash doctor. He put a rat in a box with a water contaminated with drugs, and the rat did nothing but drink that water until it died.
Mhm.
Then he put clean water and drug water. The rat would drink the water with drugs, but then go to the clean water and didn't touch the dirty water again. Then he put a bunch of them in there but this time in a playground environment with them two same waters. And I think it was like 10 rats, and not one of them touched the water with the drugs in it. But because of the environment they were in, they were no longer alone, and they were like a playground. They had stuff to do, positive things around, and
Mhm.
not one of them even got close to the dirty water. It's so like the message I think he was trying to get was the environment that we let our kids be around.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, growing up, my friends' parents, they would just have us around all their BS, and like so we thought it was cool, to smoke a joint at 7 or 8 years old, because fuck, my homie's mom was the one passing it to me. So, I mean, and that was just normal to us. So whenever they would come to my house, my parents don't do nothing like that. So they would want to roll up a joint in the living room. I'm like, no, we can't do that shit here. Like, hell no. It was different. I don't know, man. You see a lot of youth doing bad things. I mean, it's like nonchalantly, just doing it.
I mean, I think it slowly started to happen where, like, before, I don't know about everybody here, but I was raised with my dad taking the belt and hitting us if we were bad. My dad, like I said, he was born in 1927. He used to throw rice on the floor and tell us to kneel and ask for forgiveness if we were fighting with my brothers and sisters. I don't know if you ever heard of the dead cockroach. You lay on your back and your arms and your legs have to be up and elevated off of the floor. And if they touch the floor because you're tired, he'd be there with a leather belt. So, my dad was really old school with us. And because of that, we grew up with a lot of discipline in terms of behavior, respecting our parents. I had my grandmother and my grandfather on my mom's side, but I never met my dad, his parents, because they passed before I was born. But with that said, that's where I was very hard on my daughter. I've been called a tiger mom with her education. Call me what you want. My daughter had straight A's and she got accepted into Cal State University, and now she's on her way to become a nurse. But you reap what you sow. If using the analogy, the placebo effect about the rats, it's the same thing with the plant. If you put the plant in front of the light and you give it water and photosynthesis, it's gonna grow, it's gonna expand. It's the same thing with the kid. If you're giving love and affection and admiration to your child and you're rooting them on, they're going to grow up in a good environment. And you give them, skills that they are going to use, whether you put them in gymnastics like my kid was, or cheer, or, drill team, or whatever it is that they're interested in, theater, dance, whatever. Those are the things that, as a mother, for me being a single mom, going to Boys and Girls Club and asking questions, what could I do for my daughter? This is my situation. This is what I bring in. What can you do? They look at what your financial annual income is, and they say, okay, this is what you could afford. This is what you pay for rent. This is what we're going to charge you to have your kid come to Boys and Girls. And we'll pick her up, bus her from where she's at school to, the school that would partner with the local Boys and Girls Club. I think that you asked the question, what could we do as parents? I think that's it. Like, you need to get involved in your school, and you need to get involved in with your teachers and have those conversations. How is my son doing? How's my daughter doing? What could I do as a parent? And yes, I understand parents are working, different shifts and whatnot. But if you don't take the time to open up your kid's backpack and see what the hell's inside and what the teachers are communicating to you, because you can't put the fucking bottle down and the joint down, like, you're screwed up. That's screwed up number one. It's you. You're trying to teach your kid how to be, but you haven't even fucking grown up. So, my dad used to say, don't shit where you eat. I was raised, and you can tell, like, this is me being raw and real. Obviously, if I'm in my corporate job, I'm going to be very polished and clean. But right now it's, 10 o'clock. I'm just keeping it real. My dad raised me that way. So how am I going to raise my daughter? I tell her, you're going to go and speak to the doctors like that? My daughter doesn't cuss. She doesn't use profanity. She doesn't use vulgarity. She's very proper, but that's her choice. I have a mouth like a barmaid, and I just drop shit left and right. It's like my normal vernacular, and I don't like that. I hate that actually about myself. I try to skew it back, but when I get into my little flow, it'll just come out. But I'm proud of my daughter because she's made better choices, and she's grown beyond me, way beyond me. And that's what I want as a parent. I don't want her to just level up at my level. I want her to level up and level out, because then that's her honoring me. And I don't want to sound all fucking Kung Fu Panda, but it's true. It's like, I want her to excel, and I hope that's how I show my mom, my father, God rest his soul. I hope that's how I honor them.
Hermana Yvette, how are you? Good evening. I don't know how much of this topic you caught so far, but we're talking about homelessness versus shelter in our communities. Now, we were just discussing a question, going over a question of what can we do to empower and make sure that our youth don't go down this path, ¿verdad? Like, what can we do? Like, just regular people that aren't working with, like, are not per se like activists, so they know, what type of people are out there that can help and whatnot. Just people that are just have a regular job and just would like to contribute to make their environment or their community, I guess, even more, you can say safer, you can say more, ¿cómo se llama? Just help the needy, right?
Mm, mm. So when you say fifth path, what do you mean by that? Just so,
Yeah.
because I just got here. I've been having like meetings kind of back to
See,
back, so I just got here. So when you say
the
fifth
path of
path, like
becoming
what do
like
you mean?
homeless and just, because it's a trickle effect, right? Going into,
Mm,
just because you haven't done drugs, once you go into that lifestyle where you end up homeless, then it's a trickle effect. You know what I mean? Then drugs are really easy to get a hold of in the streets, right? That's what. Then there's drugs, and then there's addiction, and then from addiction there's mental illness, and it's a trickle effect, right? So it's like the deeper you go in there, and the longer you live in that environment of with encampments and things of that sort, it's harder to get back on your feet because you're too far in, right? And even if someone does lend a hand, it's so easy to slip back in there. But how do we help the youth not fall into that trap?
got it. Um, well, I do a lot of work with community in that sense. I advocate for people who have addiction, who have mental health issues, who are alcoholics. And I think a lot of it comes from a place of trauma. So I love that the question is getting to what can we do to prevent getting there, right? So again, like a lot of the things that I speak about, I can't really speak for everyone, but I can tell you what I'm doing as a mom. Um, One of the things that has been really important for me is that my children feel respected as human beings. Because I think, yeah, of course, there is like this place that I'm your mom and you have to respect me, but I'm gonna earn your respect because you're also a human being and what you say matters. It matters to me. So, when my kids were little and I will be doing stuff, right, like making food or doing the dishes or things like that, and they came up to me, like I will literally I'd rather turn off the stove and pay attention to them for two minutes and listen to them, even if it was just like some random ass story. But give them that attention. And actually, let me tell you, I'm out here outside a warehouse where my son came to a punk show, and my son is 16 years old, and all his friends are here, and I love that I can do these things with him where he doesn't feel that he has to hide. Where he was like, "Mom, let's go in," and I was like, "No, I got meetings. Like I'll be out here." But there is such an open communication and such an open relationship where he doesn't have to hide who he is, what he's doing, and he doesn't feel the need to like drink or do drugs or go behind my back because we have always had such an open relationship. And that's because I feel that I've honored their needs. I've listened to them. I've given them that respect as human beings. But as they've grown, I've also taught them that this world is not going to change for them. This world is not going to adapt to their needs. We do what we do, so we change the world, so we make this a better place for other people. Because despite what we know and what we do and the cultural attachment that we have, it doesn't mean that they go around and telling people, well, this is indigenous land, Like, no, honey. Like, you know what you know, so you have a responsibility. So now what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do about it? And the last thing is that I told them life is going to get tough because that's life. And at the end of the day, just know that you have people that love you. And no matter how dark it gets, We are here for you because that's what makes the difference. We don't learn by advice. We don't learn by telling them, oh, you know what, don't do this. Like, you have no idea how many people were in my life that told me, don't do this, don't do that. You think I listened? Come on. Like, we don't learn by advice. We learn by experience. But I think what makes the difference is the support system. So, despite the family and the support system, it's a society, it's an environment. There's a lot of factors to that, but it kind of starts with self accountability, that sense of responsibility, and like, don't expect people to do things for you. What are you going to do for them? What are you going to do for your people? What are you going to do for your community? And
That's
yeah,
that's
that's
so real. That's so real. And there's levels to it. I feel being self accountable, because a lot of people don't have. A lot of people are just here by themselves. They come travel from another state, another country. We hear it day in day out. Gente from Mexico or Guatemala. They El Salvador. They're coming over here for a better life. So a lot of them are coming over here by themselves. So like they have no support system. So it's like, but esas ganas though, that will, and I feel a lot of people that fall into that trap of homelessness, they've lost that will. They've lost that querer, that wanting to better themselves. And I think that's, I want to say, up to us, up to people that I guess are in better positions in life than them, to pick them up and in a way, not monetarily necessarily, but more like giving them that will to want to continue life, because a lot of them are already on that boat of being so depressed and down and out, and then introducing drugs to it, that just gives it another level of, you know harder for them to get out of that, right? So it's like, that's so real with what Yvette just said. Like, you have to be accountable, and then if you have a support system, make sure that you really listen to them. Make sure you really like hold on to what they're telling you, because they're telling you because they care, right? That certain people that do care, that call you and ask you, like, how you are and stuff, because this world, like, is full of people that just want something from you, right? People just want something from you all the fucking time, right? So it's like, you grow and you find out who really is there for you, and we have to hold on tight to those people, and really reciprocate the love, right? También, look out for them, and call them and find out how they're doing. You know what I mean? How's their day, emotionally? How, because just like Smokey said, anyone can be next to be in that position. Un rico can be poor the next day. You know what I mean? It's happened. I've seen documentaries. I've seen interviews of people that were once millionaires, and all of a sudden they're living in the streets, like, with nothing, like just what they have on, and that's it. And that's crazy. Like,
It's crazy
things
that you
turn
say
around.
that. Spencer, carnal. But you were just saying that there's people that come here con nada, pero solo nomás con las ganas. So this guy, I've known him not even 6 months, man. He's South African. I was talking to you earlier that I started my own business school. I went into business with him, and he told me, man, we got fired from our last job on the same day for no reason. They didn't give us a reason. They just told us you're out. And something like literally lit a fire underneath this guy's ass and said, I'm done working for somebody. I'm going to go in for business for myself. And a week before, I had mentioned to him that I wanted to do that. So a week later, we both get fired. And here we are now. This week or a couple weeks ago, we had started business. And he said, man, this has to work for me, because if it doesn't, then I'm going to lose my right to be in the U.S. and I got to go back to South Africa. He was adopted as a kid, but even his adopted parents are now dead. So he don't know his siblings. He knows he has some, but he doesn't know anybody back in South Africa, and he doesn't know anybody here. So some way, somehow, like when he told me that, I kind of felt responsible in a way to kind of because the way he said it, it hit me like if it was a dream for him, you know, to do something for himself. I mean, because he doesn't have nobody else to do anything for it but for himself. And I felt kind of responsible in the way like to help him get to where he wanted to be, because I kind of we have the same goal in life, you know, to do something with ourselves and quit doing it for other people when we know we can do it for ourselves. And I don't like, and I'll tell you right now, he's like my best friend right now. You know, he's just like a real cool dude. And he's like, dude, I'm never gonna screw you over. You know, he's legit. You know, and it's not somebody that, and I'm not even 30 yet. This guy's like almost 50. You know, I don't know shit about this guy, except I mean, we got like the same dream, the same goals, and we just over here. But it's la madrugada. It's midnight over here where I'm at. We just got off work about an hour ago, and we've been at it since 7 this morning, and we've been like this for 2 weeks. I mean, just day in and day out, day in and day out, and not once does he complain. He doesn't, none of that. And then earlier today, he's like, man, because I was kind of complaining today because it's cold as shit over here. I was like, man, let's go home and chill. He's like, well, we got to keep pushing. We got to keep pushing, you know. He's like, as long as you don't let me fall, I'm not going to let you fall. And it's just, it's weird, man, where somebody from way across the world, you know, we ended up meeting in this little town, and we're not going to, like, we got it in our heads. We're not going to let one or the other fall. It's kind of like, it's a fucking relationship almost, you know. I mean, it's weird, man, but it's cool knowing that I got that support, and he knows that he's got the support. Because también we put a lot of money into this, a lot of time, to where if it doesn't work, then it's, as a man, it's gonna shoot our pride. Having to go and restart again with somebody else and do what we said we didn't want to do. But just having that little bit of support, then it helps out a lot, man. Like, it's just crazy.
Wow, bro. No, gracias for sharing that, bro. Gracias for sharing that. See, and Smokey had already told me this story, pero it still hits me the same way. You know, like how it's just that state of mind, the state of mind of want to succeed, right? Of not wanting to end up in a place where you just don't want to be, because like it just hits you in a emotional place in your heart, like in your mind. You know what I mean? So like you said, it hits you as a man. Being a failure is like, we're supposed to be the ones, the providers and stuff, right? So it's like it hits you. I don't know. It's just it's a
Especially
different
I
thing
have
for a
two
man.
daughters. I got two daughters, and they look at
That's
me
what I'm
like I'm
saying.
Superman. You know, they look at me like anything that comes in. Oh, my daddy can do that. Oh, my, like they look at me like I'm like, like I'm God. Like it's it's amazing how these my little girls look up to me. You know, and and I just started noticing it whenever they'll start comparing me to their friends' dad. Like they'll start talking shit to their friends and be like, "Oh, my dad, this." I'm just like, "Hey,
Totally.
don't do that." Like don't do that, because you never know. One day we'll be homeless. We won't have shit. So, so don't be like that. But they're like, "Yeah, but you got, you got this and you got that." I was like, "Yeah, but you don't know what it took for me to get to where I'm at right now." I was like, "Shit, you're gonna go through the same shit, because I'm not just gonna hand anything to you."
Yeah.
You know.
See, and that's a good question right there, bro. Should we let our kids go through hard times like we did, so they can, like, in their hearts, in their hearts of hearts, feel what it takes to get there? Because I feel that, and it's a good and bad thing depending on the particular child, right? How they're taking it in. If you hand something to them and you tell them, oh, it took for me to do this to get this, and now it's yours, that might get them to try as hard, or that might be so too simple for them, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
how do you guys see that? I mean, do you think we should let them fall through the same traps that we did, so that way they can learn and be in the same boat that we are in at this age, or what do you guys think?
I think so, but with love. Let them know that you're still there. I mean, because a lot of us are where we are right now, and we've been ran through the gutter and shit, and we didn't have that support. Maybe we had the love, but we didn't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm trying to, with my kids, let them know that they got love, they got the support, and if they fall, I'm gonna be there to catch them. But a couple times I'm gonna let them fall on their ass so they can feel that putazo, so they can feel that chingadazo. Maybe a couple times, but after the couple times, and it's like, hey, ponte las pinches pilas, just get after it.
Ya te diste esa idea, huh? Yeah, once you get that idea of like, that's what
Yeah,
it feels like.
it's
Now
it's
you
like when you
know how
fight.
you get
It's
back
like
up.
when you get in a fight. The first time you get hit in the face, you're like, hell no. You're like, oh, like shit. When your friends like, oh, why'd you flinch? Because I know what it feels like to get hit. I don't want to get hit. So it's like one of them things. You know what it feels like, just so you don't ever want to be in that position again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's enough about me.
Yeah. Now, to wrap this up, what can we as just regular folks do for our community to really to just leave something there to fix up the issue just a little tiny bit? What can we do, just the regular
Cut
folks?
the
And we
tit for
can.
tat.
Hmm.
I have to ask
Yeah, go
you,
ahead. Go
is
ahead,
it
Yvette.
okay if I go first? And it's kind of funny because I'm actually outside the jail right now. I come here as much as I can with the group. We come out here no matter how the weather is, cold, rain, heat. Like, we're out here trying to provide them with whatever we can because they're being released under the most inhuman conditions. And I think a lot of this issue comes because a lot of times we tend to focus on individuals, right? Like, well, they're not working hard enough. They're kind of doing this to themselves. They're complacent with their life. And in a way, again, like self accountability, right? Like, what have you done and why are you still there? But at the same time, I cannot take the shift away from the fact that we have a system that benefits from people's pain and effort. Like, I've seen families that work from sunrise to sunset and still struggle to make ends meet because the system has not provided them the tools. Like, our people, no matter how hard they work, a lot of us we don't have that citizenship status. So no matter what we do, we never get to reap the or see the fruits of our work. And the other part is that whether people recognize this or not, multi-generational trauma is real. And I know that I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. The DNA, the structure of the DNA is like the USB drive. Everything throughout your generations gets recorded in your DNA. It's impregnated there, the good and the bad. So when we are predisposed to certain things, like, it's not an excuse, it's more like a responsibility. But also you have everything you need in there. We're not guilty for the trauma, but we're responsible for the healing. We live in a system that makes that really, really hard. I mean, people don't have access to healthcare. People don't have access to mental health care. On top of it, having a stigma there. Or I want to end with a powerful quote from Gabor Mate, a doctor who was a workaholic and didn't change his life until he was in his 50s. And he says, don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. A lot of people haven't been provided the tools and the support system to push through life. So I am a big enemy and against this idea that we have to suffer to learn our lessons. It doesn't have to be that way. Life doesn't have to be this hard. It is this hard because we live in a capitalist system. It's a debt cult. It benefits and it gets profit out of people's pain. Just throughout the pandemic, we saw the biggest transfer of wealth from the working class to the millionaires, to the 1%, to the elite. How can we live in a system like that when people are dying and they need help? You got me? Like, it's not just about people. And when we just focus on people and we blame them for the trauma, for the circumstances, for the environment that was imposed on us, it takes away the blame from the capitalism, from the imperialism, from racism. And those things go hand in hand. So if we're going to make people accountable, right, we're going to hold them responsible for their actions, it has to go hand in hand with this system because it benefits from that. So with that said, I
Muchas
want to
gracias,
thank
muchas
you, Rama,
gracias.
once again for holding space. And I'm going to go work for the community for a little bit. But I hope everyone has a good night.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you next week.
Buenas noches.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Wali Jawali.
Good night.
Now to wrap it up, Cindy, go ahead and share what do you propose one can do, just regular folk, to better their environment, just a little tiny bit, with this issue of homelessness.
I mean, for me, I think it's an individual choice. I know based off of my salary and what I'm able to give based on my time, and just my commitment to our neighbors, and fellow, humans. Like I said at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, well, what could I do? And so I did the blanket drive, started my little food blog. And then once that was successful, it was like, okay, well, what else could I do? Since the blanket drive was successful, I was like, okay, I'm going to do a toy drive and we'll donate toys to an orphanage. During the Depression, my father's brothers and sisters, because his parents couldn't feed all the kids, they had to go into a government program. So I grew up hearing stories about my father explaining how he was really affected by not being able to find, his brothers and sisters. But luckily, as they would transfer kids from one facility to another, he met a young kid that was in a facility that his brother Joey, my uncle, was at, and my tío Zeke, Zanaido, who's named after my grandfather, who I never met. But my father was able to find his sister Cecilia, my tía Celia, his sister Mary, his other sister Chayo, and my uncles. And without that friend telling him, hey, I know your brother Johnny and Joey and Zeke, they're over at this facility, that single-handed friend that was able to tell my dad is how my dad was able to get all the brothers and sisters back together. So growing up, my father explained those stories to us. And, he had lived in San Francisco with his parents at one point, and he had a little shoe shine box. And with his eight-year-old writing on the side of the shoe shine box, it says 5 cents. When my father passed away when I was 16, I remember telling my mom, I said, when Papa died, he wrote a will. And I said, I want that shoe shine box. And my mom's like, Mija, why do you want that? Like, it's not even really of a value. And I said, what do you mean, Mom? I said, of course it's a value. I said, it's his defining moment as an 8-year-old child becoming an entrepreneur in the streets of San Francisco, and then coming to Los Angeles and coming to San Diego with his uncle, my uncle Esteban. He had a farm. And I told my mom, like, it was his defining moment of, as a child, saying, I'm going to make money. And I said, of course I would ask for that. And I said, can I have it? And she's like, yeah, if you want. You don't want the tea set? You don't want the tea set he bought his mom, that's flaked with, 24 karat gold. You don't want, the armoire. You don't want, she started naming things that in her mind were of value. And I said, no, Mom, I want the shoe shine box. And for me, it was more of a sentimental value because as a little girl, wearing my patent leather shoes before we go to church, he would shoe shine his boots. And if you've ever been to a shoe shine, a real guy that does shoe shine, you'll hear the material, and it's like he's shining the boot or the shoe, and all of a sudden you'll hear the whack from the material, and it'll have like a scent and a smell all at the same time, you know, encompassing everything. And so for me, it was like, I need that box. And my mom's like, why do you want it? And I said, well, what does it matter? Like, you know, can I have it or not? And she's like, yeah, you can, but I want to know why you want it. And I said, because there's going to be times in life that I know I'm going to sit there and feel sorry for myself. And I'm going to bitch and complain about life. And the minute I start to feel that way, I want to look at that box and I want to shut the fuck up. And I want to get up and go. And I said, because I saw you and Dad work Monday through Friday. Saturday, you guys would go to the violent swap meet. You'd come home tired after, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You'd take a shower, you'd eat a little something, and you go to the garage and you start cutting patterns because they made the increasing and decreasing of sizes of patterns for clothing. And they had accounts like Guess, and look what Guess is now today, and the Marciano brothers, if you read about it. There was a company called Jim Z, which was kind of like Quicksilver of the day. A lot of different companies, a denim company called Chemin de Fer, Collegian, they made suits. All of these companies that, were big and were purchased from Bullock's and Broadway and those Robinson's May, all those stores are dated now because now it's, Macy's, but Federated owns those. But those were my dad's clients. And so seeing that, and then myself deciding I want to go to LA Trade Tech and study fashion merchandising. My dad was like, nah, you like to talk, you like to argue, I want you to be a lawyer. And I should have listened to him in hindsight, but I had to follow what I was passionate about and what I felt God was giving me, that gift in me. And so I pursued, working in the fashion industry. But I will say that that's probably the catalyst that has helped me in times where I've struggled, not financially, but like mentally, emotionally, to get up and go, and for that, I share that story to my daughter. One of the things that my father did when he came out of the orphanage and as he was a young man coming up, at one point, my aunts and my dad and my grandmother were living in the projects. And I remember I was probably about 14, we're going downtown. We're right there by the Sears building downtown. And he pulled up to the projects and we're at Estrada Courts. And he pulled up right there and he said, Mija, look at that mural. And I looked at the mural and he said, you're a young girl. And if you don't make proper choices with who you hang out with and what you do, this is where you'll end up. And he said, I want you to look around and I want you to see who's here. And of course I did. And, I saw a guy, cholo with his pelon and tatted up, and he was fine as fuck. And I'm staring at him and my dad's looking at me like he saw what I was doing. And he said, Mija, and I said, what? Because I didn't think he caught me, but he did. And he said, what are you doing? I said, well, you told me to look, so I'm looking. Like, well, what do you want from me, man? And he said, well, I'm trying to teach you something. And he says, but I need you to listen and I need you to pay attention. And I said, okay, because, of course, my hormones. And he said, well, who do you see with him? And there was a young girl, and she's pushing a baby in the stroller. And he says, do you want to end up like that? And then it was like, this is what he's trying to teach me. And he says, I work hard so that you can make something of yourself. And he says, I don't want you to have regrets in life. And he says, I let you go with your friends and hang out and do things. But with that comes that responsibility of making good choices. So what do you want? Do you want to just have fun and pay the rest of your life? Or do you want to sacrifice now and have a good life? That there were always those really like words of wisdom. And sometimes he would speak to me as if I was like 20. I didn't realize it, but my dad, he was diagnosed with cancer. So a lot of the things that he would say to me were very mature and very profound, because what he was trying to do was like fill the cup with water, and I'm the cup. He was trying to give me as much water as possible for me to understand, because he knew his time on earth was limited. With that said, I think that's how we need to teach our youth. Everyone thinks they have an infinite amount of time. And time is the most precious thing you can give someone, your time, your energy. And like water, which is called prana, it's life force. Prana is life force. So you could call it God, you can call it universe, you could call it whatever you believe in, whether you're, Buddhist, whether you're Christian, whether you believe in Allah, whatever you believe in, but it's life force. I feel that's what we need to start with our youth, teaching them what are those core values with their education, because what they pour into their minds, what they pour into their self is what they're going to reap later, and you can sit here with all the excuses like, oh, but I was raised by a single mom or a single dad. Hell, that's half of everyone. I remember my daughter came home one day and she said, Mom, there was some boy in class that was complaining because he was raised by a single mom. And I said, oh, yeah, mija, what did you say? She goes, I looked at him and said, you ain't special. I said, you said that? And she goes, yeah. She goes, I told him, you ain't special. So am I. And I have straight A's. I said, dang, girl, you need to slow your roll. Like, maybe chill a little. But then I realized, oh, well, shoot, she's being raised by me. And I'm very strong and opinionated, not in a disrespectful way, because I do believe that, a man is a king and a woman's a queen. And, my mother was the type of mother that would serve my dad, and she would be serving us kids and then she'd sit down. I don't think my mother ever had a hot meal. Like, I think my mom was always serving us. But what that taught me was how I want to be. My daughter always says, Mom, why do you always, serve, who you're with first? And I said, well, because my mom taught me that. It's out of respect. It's out of admiration. And eventually you'll have that. She's like, no, I won't. I said, no, you will. You watch. Right now you haven't dated. You haven't hooked up. You haven't gone through that because you've just been focused on school. But eventually you will see. It's like you don't think about it. It's just automatic. It's like walking. It's like breathing. It's just going to come. Because I used to be just like you, Mija. I used to say, I ain't going to do that. Guess what? You change.
I get you. That's tradition.
Yep.
But you know what? Traditional ways go a long way, and that's probably what put us in this position. A lot of it that we lost our way,
Yeah.
and it seems that way. But I mean, there's a lot of good and bad in tradition as well. But yeah, you touched on a lot of good points. I really enjoy listening to all the stories that you said. Because that's the way that we used to communicate and teach morals. That's why they call it the moral of the story. There was morals being taught with stories before we had TV, before we had radio, right? We sat around, and told stories, like, and they turned out to be, a lot of them we still hold near and dear, right?
Absolutely.
That we told hundreds of years ago, you know what I mean? But this is another, I feel that, having the social media and not using it properly, it's one of the reasons también that we're dealing with a lot of issues in society.
Yeah.
That social media is a great platform, a great thing to use for the right things.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people misuse it. I tell my kids, I don't even let my kids be on social media, and they're like, well, why? Because, like, you'll thank me later. You know what I mean? Like, there is no handbook, there is no guidebook that tells you
Well,
how
we were the guinea
to.
pig. We're
The guinea pigs. It's all an experiment. Like, they just gave us this technology with no handbook of how to really use it for our benefit, not to mess us up. And it's become just another addiction. Is really what it is. Another addiction that we have to eventually deal with somehow. So it's like, it's just great that people like yourself, like, come onto platforms like mine, and there's plenty other platforms just that are willing to sit down and have conversations like this. And it's just unfortunate to have people like yourself to come in and say stories, and that can teach someone something, a moral, have someone think differently for a change, because we're so caught up on our daily routine that we don't have time to think about other things rather than what we're just faced with, right? So it's just an honor. It's an honor to do this, to be able to meet people like yourself, and
Thank you.
I hope that I was able to intrigue uh, you into this topic, and I hope that you can come on to the next episode.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. You have a good night.
Likewise, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, people. So this is the end of episode 5, homelessness versus sheltered, and everyone touched on a lot of great points. I really enjoyed having this conversation with everyone that stopped by, everyone that was on the comments. Um, and yeah, like this is really the youth. I always bring it back to how we can implement something for the youth to be able to transcend into a successful future. We need to have something, because everything else in society is gearing them to fail, really, if you think about it. Like, just like I mentioned, social media, TV, there's all these idiotic shows out there that just teaches how to be reckless, and it's just like, who's monitoring these things? Like, like, they censor things that are just like, I mean, more educational. you know People may say, oh, that's their lies that people are spewing, that's why they censor it. But there's a lot of idiotic things on TV that are geared for children, and it's like, why isn't that censored? So it's just that just makes me think that society is just gearing our children to fail. They're making trying to make, just dumb, individuals with no sense of anything. I mean, that's why it's so important as parents to make sure that they're on the right path, and thus hopefully helping them not to fall into this trap. Like I said before, I really feel it's a trap, and we need to learn how to not fall into it and help our youth not to fall into it. But with that said, this is Brown96 with another episode of the Brown Experience. Make sure you tap in to my social media at Brown_9SIX. The number 9SIX. If you want to be a guest here, you want to jump on the live in future episodes, make sure you follow me here on Instagram. We do it every Thursday on Instagram Live right here at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So make sure you tune in next week with another topic. Hopefully you like this episode. But yeah, leave some comments on the. It's on all platforms now. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's on YouTube. Go ahead and tap in, leave your comments, and catch you on the next episode, gente. Good night.